I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, if we could have a moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Mason.
Present.
Trustee Reinders.
Present.
Trustee McNaughton.
Present.
Trustee Consolino.
Present.
Trustee Fialko.
Present.
Trustee Stylen.
Present.
Mayor Knightsky-Troicke.
Present. Community recognition. I didn't have any today. Did any of the other board members have any? No?
We could, at this moment.
Okay,
Yes.
sure. Go right
To recognize Mr. Steve McMichael, made it into the final three today. I was going to say it a little bit,
figured.
but why not community recognition, right? Steve McMichael made it into the final three today, or yesterday. They announced it today, though. So congratulations to Steve McMichael and his family for their long, hard effort to get there.
Amendments to the agenda. Are there any amendments?
Yes. I would like to move L6 and L7 to after the workshop O.
6 and L7.
Are there any other amendments?
No.
Is there a motion to adopt the amendments of the agenda?
We don't need a,
Or, I'm sorry, to
Yes.
approve the agenda as amended?
yeah, that's why I need a motion to approve.
Is there a motion
motion
to
that.
approve the,
I'll motion that.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Can I second his own motion?
Trustee Fialko.
No.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
No.
Trustee Consolino.
No.
The mayor will say aye.
Just a quick question, in that motion of that move that was just made, you said to put it after what, though?
After the workshop.
Yeah, normally you make the amendments to the agenda within the legislative action items, not outside of that. So, Paul?
No, what we've been doing is amendments to the agenda, we've been handling it at F. And so he made a motion.
No.
He moved them, and now we're approving the amendments, right?
Well, what I'm saying is we move them within the category that they reside. And that category is L. We've never moved them outside of that to a workshop, from legislative action items to after a workshop.
We have moved things from K to L, we've moved things around, so we have done that in the past, but in addition, there is no restriction to move it. So you can move it, you can still move it to later on the agenda. It doesn't need to go under to any particular agenda item. So it can be moved after O. Thank you.
All right, my vote is aye for now. I mean, just move it along.
Would you put with the statute that shows that in the future, so we know going forward?
Approval of minutes. I don't believe there are minutes in the packet.
You can request it.
Public comment.
Request it for a legal opinion.
Melissa, is there public comment over
I
there?
am requested it.
You can't listen to two people
Not
at
right
once.
now.
I'm sorry.
Wasn't speaking. I was listening.
Oh. I'll talk to you after the meeting about that.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, Melissa. Jay Rhodey.
Mayor, board, residents. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about recent events that took place over the past week. I'm a very tired man. I'd like to reach out and thank you, Mayor Christina, for not only going on AM 560 to express your concerns with what happened in District 33C, but also to speak on behalf of the parents and the children in this community on something. I want to reach out to Dan Fialko, Trustee Fialko. You showed up, interrupted your Sunday, and talked on behalf of these kids and these parents that are deathly afraid. Rose Reinders, you showed up at these meetings and you sat there with those parents and stood by their sides. Jennifer Castellino, you showed up at both of those meetings, you did the same. Thank you, a heartfelt thank you for that. Now, Sue Styler, Kurt Mason, Craig McDonald. When the election was over, the first thing I did to you, I walked up to you, and I gave you a great smile, and I said, congratulations. And I always treated you with respect. Kurt, the first opportunity I had, I walked up to you, I looked you right in the eye, I shook your hand, I said, congratulations, and I always treated you with respect. Mr. McNaughton, I haven't had that opportunity, but congratulations on the win. At this point, you are no longer integrity, and I am no longer homophobia. Okay? You guys are individuals serving on this board. So please understand, I get it. No, I'm not happy about what I'm about to say. Where the hell were you three this week? You were nowhere to be found. You couldn't stand up for kids? Are we in for another 3-hour meeting tonight? Pursuit's going to go after Steve Ballich or Proctorfilio because what she considers EPA approval doesn't match actual EPA approval. Is that really the concern of our community at this point? Kurt, are you going to match wits and go back and forth with Dan today? Really, about where we're going to plant or replant trees? Is that really a priority? Or Craig? Are we going to put out another liquor license for someone that doesn't meet the ordinance? Is this really the importance that is at our feet right now? You couldn't show up for these parents? And I'll tell you what, the person that breaks my heart the most is you, Kurt. You're a registered Republican. I am the vice chair of the Homer Township Republican Organization. I tried to reach out to you because we were joining John Curran, Senator John Curran's efforts and standing behind these parents. I reached out to the mayor and I said, can I have Kurt's personal email? Because I didn't, it was a Saturday. And I didn't want to text it, I didn't want to send it to the village. I wanted to make sure you got it. And you respectfully declined to stand up for kids. Okay? I don't want to hear the BS that it's not your jurisdiction. That's exactly where you needed to be. You should be ashamed of yourself. You know what? It takes more than putting a tattoo on your arm and walking around saying, I'm a patriot. I went to January 6th. That's how much of a patriot I am. No, Kurt, it takes more than that. It really does. Again, Mayor Christina, God bless you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know you probably never thought you'd hear that out of my mouth.
You're right.
God bless you. Thank you. Dan Fialco, God bless you. Rose, God bless you. Jennifer, God bless you. God bless our village. God bless all those parents who needed a voice and needed their leaders.
30
to show
seconds.
up for them. God bless America. That's all I got.
Heidi. I apologize, there's no last name. Hello. My name is Heidi, and thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. I'm actually representing anyone that could not be here, that has a voice in the community, the elderly, anyone at home, working parents, anyone that's sick or homebound, and my issue is regarding the Hadley Parker Chicago Bloomington Trail Road Project. And I've collected a lot of feedback and perspectives over the last month, and I'm the mouthpiece for the community members that believe that this project would be not in the best interest of the community. And the entire community is actually a unique gem, and everyone that I've been involved with so far, if anything, it's brought everyone together and united everybody despite the challenges and the negativity of this road project. And although I don't speak for absolutely every single person and their opinion, but I can say that the consensus on this project is that widening and reconstructing the roads will encroach on people's properties. It will jeopardize the community's livelihoods, the farmers, crops, livestock. It will endanger woodlands, habitats, the natural forest biome. It will demolish a significant historical district, which is referred to as a crossroads community. Response to your mission statement of, I'm sorry, I'm just looking here. The nature and the harmony, the community is concerned about that, because if you don't have the nature, you won't have harmony, and what's the point of even saying that? And not to mention, there are 50 properties greater than the year 40 years old, which means that these 50 properties are within the project corridor. They all need to be studied historically.
30 seconds.
There's also an agreement that the residents do not want heavyweight trucks. They do not want this collector road, which is a rural collector road, which means it collects cars, that it balances mobility with land access. There's driveways. And the community overall wants and needs these roads to remain rural while preserving and maintaining its function for which it was intended. Thank you.
Mikey Smith.
Hi all, thanks for your time. Mikey Smith, licensed architect and farmer on Parker Road, talking on the same subject as Heidi. You all probably recognize me from last time with the long letter about the doctrine of the lesser magistrates and Parker Road, and we had like 7 of us come up and read my letter. So just reminding you, we're still into that, and a lot of the things that Heidi just said, so I won't double dip on that half of it, but I sent the majority of you an email over the week, with specific action items that we're looking for. What can the village of Homer Glen do in regards to this? Because in my experience as an architect in development projects with this sort of thing, even if it gets shut down now or the road gets absorbed into the village of Homer Glen, or we come up with any sort of solution, those tend to just put the project on the shelf for 5 years, and then 5 years from now it gets brought back into the table and we have to have this whole conversation again. So we're looking for lasting action. So you can check out the legal aspect of our approach here, just per the prescription of Illinois state law, the requirements for an eminent domain project. And we put together a proposal, Save Parker Road, Save Hadley Road, or SaveChaiBloom.com. Those are 3 websites. They're all the same website. With exact action items of legislation we're looking to have you guys pass to give that rural heritage corridor the legal teeth and the weight it needs, so that way, if at 5 years down the road this ends up in front of a court or a judge, it has the legal teeth it needs under Illinois state law to actually carry some weight and not just get lopped into the bucket of case law that it would otherwise be put into. So that's the legal side of the approach, what we'd be calling on you guys to do. So happy to talk about it more with you at any point in time outside of my 3-minute window here. Just wanted to get it on your radar. You can see that again, saveparkerroad.com, or the other 3 websites I just listed. So thank you much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Mark Daniel.
Good evening, everybody. It's been about a year since I was here regarding Lot 5 in Menard's subdivision. I represent the developer and owner of the property, NSS Group, and Pac Italia. With me tonight is Rick Scally, who actually bought land to build a home on in Homer Glen over, I think it was January of this year, perhaps late January. They're proud of doing work in Homer Glen. I find myself here tonight on a difficult issue. We have a project in the pipeline, and I feel like I'm standing into some crosshairs on an issue regarding liquor licensing that you normally don't see, but this moratorium that we're dealing with on item L4 is a very serious matter for us. We've got millions at stake in that lot and the development. We, in preparing our financing packages, from day one, we've been looking at the village's codes, the reliability of licensing, and the form of the codes, what's required, and trying to design within them. And that is the case even though we're not to the point of even getting a building permit. That's very important to note. The moratorium on liquor licensing affects us, even though we are not in a position to apply for a permit because our lenders look at our package. We made a decision to purchase the property during the pandemic, to stick with Homer Glen on the project. There were some questions about being able to tenant it. We paid cash for the property instead of going out on a loan because loans were going to get more expensive. Loans continue to get more expensive. You have a significant period of uncertainty that we dealt with through the pandemic, through the changes in interest rates, through the increased cost of goods, labor availability. Next year when we come around for a liquor license, we would hope that it's there. I mean, we think that you guys know good government, you'll know how to handle things, but between now and then we need to be able to lay out not a reasonable likelihood, but basically a certainty that we're complying with a parameter of guideposts that Homer Glen has. And we've been working on that now for a year and a half, longer than a year and a half. It's no small project for Homer Glen. I mean, we're talking about $2.5 million or more in the very short term in tax revenues. On top of that, I'll note, I mentioned that we're trying to design within Homer Glen's codes, but we really don't necessarily need to have a liquor
30
license.
seconds.
We depend secondarily on the traffic in the Bell Road corridor. And when I was the Westmont Village Attorney some time back, they adopted a moratorium when I was sitting in the dais. And development skipped from Oak Brook and Hinsdale and Lombard right over Westmont to Downers Grove. And I don't want to see that here in Homer Glen. We have a stake. Mr. Scally's intending to live here. We would hope that you not approve
Time's up.
that. So if you can, please pay very close attention to that. And I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. There's 3 names on the next line, so I'm going to take it. Steve Balich, the first one. Are you all 3 speaking in a row? So Steve Balich, Carmen Rella, and Brent Porfilio.
I don't know which ones are going to talk, but I'm supposed to start. I'm the township supervisor, you have the township assessor and the township road commissioner, and we met last week and discussed the Hadley problem with that road that's going in. I'm also the county board member, and so we figured out a solution. And what I've done already, I called my attorney, and he's creating a jurisdictional transfer of that road to the road district, the township road district. And we're going to need to have the Village of Homer Glen sign off on it, probably, it's not for sure. But I figured we should just come here and let you guys know that that's what we decided to do, and we're not planning on raising anybody's taxes. It's all going to stay the same. We figured out how to do it without a tax increase. So if you have any questions, you can ask us all, but Mr. Porfilio wants to say something. I don't know if Morella does.
Yeah, I did a drive-through on and I read the Phase 1 report that the county came up with. As you all know, the county is broke as a joke. They don't have any money. They're trying to get federal funding in order to make this work. And whenever you solicit federal funding, they want the grand finale. They want wider roads, they want shoulders, they want wider ditches. They want to straighten out the road horizontally and vertically for sight distance. And because of that, it's going to affect all the folks that are in this room in the back, Heidi and all her friends and all her neighbors and the people that were at the last meeting. So we wanted to step in and get a jurisdictional transfer, to have the township take it over. This is a minor collector road. It is not a county highway. We do not want to encourage trucks through there. If you look at a road map around that area, you have 159th Street on the north, you got Route 6 on the south, you got Will Cook Road on the east, and you have Cedar Road on the west. Those are where the trucks should be, not slicing through the community. And I don't know how many of you have driven through there. The north-south leg is Parker Road from US 6 to Chicago Bloomington Trail, and then it goes northeast and turns into Hadley Road and goes due east to Wilcook Road. I think 90% of the access points on that county highway are driveways for residents. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we don't encourage trucks. We
30
want to keep a
seconds.
low speed limit, 35 miles an hour, and if there's sight distance issues around two of the curves, that's a simple vegetation trimming problem. So the pavement is made out of pozzolanic material, which means that it's got a long life left to it. I think it's got another 5 to 10 years before it has to be reconstructed. In the meantime, we can save up money to improve it when we need to. So that's my assessment of it. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
I just like to say, you know, that corridor is a big part of our history for Homer. It's been there for a long time. If a lot of people don't know, Chicago Bloomington Road is a big part of our history, and I'd like to see that preserved for our village and our township. And I think the people in that area are really striving for that. And this is why we really discussed this and really want to get this moving forward. So any help we can have will be greatly appreciated. That's all I have.
Thanks.
And
Thank you.
I'm going to be getting with Melissa when we get the jurisdictional transfer and getting it, hopefully, we don't need a signature, we can just do it. I don't know. The attorney isn't sure. But as soon as I get it, I'll make sure you guys get a copy because it is in the village of Homer Glen. So you guys need to know what we're doing. And anyone got any questions, we're here, and then we're going to leave in a few minutes. So if you got questions, ask now because we won't be here later. So God bless you guys.
Michael Bonomo?
Good evening, Mayor, Board, Village of Homer Glen. I wanted to go off of what, a little bit about what Jay said. It was pretty cool driving into the city, I forgot what day it was, when you were on the radio with Dan Proft, talking about the whole incident at Hadley, with the District 33. And it was great to see your support for the village, which you've always done, and with the children, fighting for them. And again, as long as I've known you, you've always been a fighter. And it was just great to hear your words and your inspiration on what you had said. And for the three, with Dan, Rosie, and Jennifer, knowing you guys fight for this village, no matter what is at stake, whether it's children, seniors, middle of the road people, you're always there and always there to support the village. The main reason why I'm here is to support an event that I'm having coming up on September 16th. We're having our second annual Homer Senior Expo, Lifestyle Expo at Hadley Junior High. It's going to be on September 16th from 10 to 2. For anybody who was watching this, if you know of any vendors in the area that can provide any sort of services or products for seniors, have them contact the township office and we could give them a booth and they could promote their goods and services to the seniors of the township. Last year we had 57 vendors, about 250 people walking through the turnstile. It was a great first event. And anyone that came as a patron said it was one of the better events or senior expos they've been to, and it was our first one. So we plan on doing it better this year. Right now we have about 40 vendors lined up. My goal is to get 50. And we're going to have some entertainment. We talked to Fred Astaire. They're going to have a little dancing exhibition. We're going to have bingo, which is really what it was founded on. Me and Cindy Laha, who we both are the chairman of the senior committee, or the senior committee, and or task force. I'm sorry. Wanted to correct that, make the exact correction. But we're fighting hard for the seniors. We try to promote more events. We're increasing our attendance each month at the bingo, which means we're getting a little more notoriety. So our goal for this expo, spread the word. We'd like to have hundreds of people walk through the door. We're going to have everything to offer to them, from health to food to entertainment. And it's going to be a great event. It's going to represent Homer Glen, which is, I think, our goal. I'm in the township, but I do represent Homer Glen. And my goal is to make us all proud of our village, and that's what we're doing. And again, thanks to Christina with fighting for the children, and you guys here too. And it makes us proud to be part of this village, when we fight for it. Thank you.
Frank Bujan?
Hi, Frank Bujan, sober. Where I'm living in Hidden Valley Estates. I need more than 3 minutes. I need 6 minutes. I'm 80 years old, so I'll wait for the okay after that, but I have a lot to say. First of all, I just thought of this, well, listening to me, I think we need another trustee in the village. We need a tiebreaker, not just Christina, but we got 3 people alienated one way, 3 people alienated the other way, and she gets too much heat on her to make the final decision. We need a special election for 6th, 7th alderman. You'd have to set that up for special election. That's my suggestion. As a taxpayer, I don't belong to any groups except me. I'm a money guy. I went to Notre Dame in 1966. Second thing, I went to the Park District deal yesterday with Rose. It was a very nice presentation about the Veterans Park, and I thought that's nice. That's real nice. I was a war baby in 1942, so we came off, I was born before the Second War started. And in Chicago, we had a real good balance between people and the city. I think Richard J. Daley was a really good mayor. I'm not Democrat, Republican, I'm an independent. I think we need a third party in the country, but I'm not here to talk about that tonight. What I think we have to do in 2 years, build a golf course. And we have to do something with the footing. This golf course we used to have here was okay, but the guy made a lot of mistakes with his money. He shouldn't have had any cafeteria. You make it, for every $1 of golf you charge, you got about 98% profit for the village. You can do the statistics on it. You just have to water the grass to put the poles in. And I took building fund accounting in Notre Dame, 33 hours of accounting. You set up separate funds, put a couple, however much money it's going to take to build a golf course, 18-hole golf course, just like Jackson Park over in Chicago or Marquette Park. Use those as guidelines. I'd be happy to contribute on a group, but I also started my professional time. I certified public accountants in 1975, so I don't do things for nothing. So that's one thing. The golf course would be for kids from 3 years old to people 90 years old. Be for everybody. And it's a real good money maker. Second thing, these cans, I was in the beverage business years ago, 7-Up. We had returnable bottles, I remember, back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, 16-ounce bottles. Started going to these cans.
30 seconds.
No, I got another 3 minutes after that, if I can petition you. Because Russ Patrizio used to give me a little more time. Russ, I'm name dropping.
Once your 30 seconds is up, you can make a petition to the board for an additional 3 minutes, and then they have to take a motion, a second, and a vote on
Okay,
it.
how do I do that again? Just
At
ask
the end of your
permission?
3 minutes, request an additional 3 minutes.
Okay, well, my second thing is about returnable cans. So state of Michigan and everything will give 10 cents a can for this. We don't give anything in Illinois. We just throw them away. We're throwing away a fortune there. So my immediate stopgap would be to put these things all over the village. Containers now, selling the aluminum cycler. The village
Time's up.
Okay, the village manager would have to do the research on it. But I've done it already myself.
Are you requesting an additional 3 minutes now?
Yes, sir. 3 minutes.
We'll need a first, a second, and a vote.
Is there a motion to grant Mr. Bujan an additional 3 minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders. Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the extra time. I'm long-winded. I was a salesman, so I talk quite a bit, but I have good facts. The next thing was a real estate tax. I just got my bill the other day. I called Carmen up. I said, Carmen, I get 3% from Social Security, raises my prices 7%. Carmen doesn't raise the price. Somebody out in the Cook County does it. We should have no raise this year. We're in a real catastrophe the last 3 years. 7% is just, they can't live with their own budget. We should be making the budget ourselves, not some guy, Dale somebody, I don't even know who he is, comes up with a budget and they raise the prices every year. Well, the prices are not going up, they're going down, because people have to pay 7%. So I'm proposing myself, I'm supposed to get 3 comps. I'm not going to waste my time doing that. I know I'm getting raised too much. I'm only getting 3% more from Social Security, but they want to tax me 7% of my money. I'm not a senior citizen. I don't qualify for that exemption. So I think the board has to somehow work with another part of the government. Because if I remember right, 1776, we burned tea because there was too much taxation. There's too much taxation today. And government in Washington D.C., the Great Society is taking all our money and spending it in Washington on bombs and stuff rather than stuff we should put back here. We don't need any bombs. Okay, that's the second thing. The third thing, I talked about the bottles, 10 cents a cup. I think Steve and Carmen and the other guy that was there, they're all smart guys too. But township and village should work together, not against each other. It's just one, you're either unincorporated or incorporated. I was unincorporated in Villa West for many years in Orland. Wayne Mirage was the township supervisor. He's a good friend of mine. He was the township, and Danny McLaughlin was the mayor. I know both of those guys pretty well, not to drop names. Dan did a real good job. A lot of people were against him expanding the downtown area. He lost his job because of that. But it's a nice area now. But I think Christie, Mayor Christie's got to control growth. Got to control growth because talking about these roads, the government encroaches. They overdo things. So, but I think we should get money for the veterans from the government. We'll talk Tammy Duckworth up. Call her up. She's a veteran. Get the money from the. That's our money. We'll put money in there and they do a measurement how much you put in, how much you get back. Illinois, one of the states not getting enough back.
30 seconds.
Okay, I'll let it go for next time. I got more next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, reports and communications from the president and other officers. Village manager?
Just real quick, I don't have a specific report, but regarding and depending on the results of item L1 tonight, I'd be honored to once again have the opportunity to serve the community in this capacity. I've been active with the village since its incorporation and have 25 years of municipal experience. I'm embracing this challenge. I want to keep things moving in a positive direction. I'd also like to thank our entire staff for their continued help and support. That concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the trustees. Mr. McNaughton?
No.
Or Trustee McNaughton, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Trustee Mason?
Not at this time, Mayor, but I'm sure I'll have plenty to say later on.
Thank you. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, reporting for the Community Development Committee. We were unable to have a quorum this past month, but we are planning on having a table at the Senior Expo. I have an application to turn into, if Mike Bonomo is still here. I don't see him. And if any other departments want to join us or join me, they are more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Stylen. Trustee Fialko?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Troiki.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Niski Troiki, and thank you for telling me to turn my mic on. I don't often forget that. But the Homer Fest, the next meeting is on September 6th at 5:30 for anybody that's interested in going to that. I would like to say again, thank you, congratulations to Steve McMichael and his family for making it through to the final three. Yesterday, the decision was made. Today, the announcement was put out there, so congratulations to the McMichael family once again. And that is it with my report. Thank you.
Trustee Reinders?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Mine's probably going to be a little bit lengthy. Just for the trustees, I did put this on your spot where you sit, just so that you know part of what I'm going to be talking about in my report. This was something that we discussed at the Parks and Recs meeting. So the focus of this month's meeting was once again Heritage Park and the Veterans Memorial. We had the pleasure of Mike McCullough and Lou Zemke attend and give a presentation on some ideas that they would like to see incorporated into the Veterans Memorial. They did a comparison on the original design by TRIA and the plan designed by Touch of Green. They listed the pros and cons of each project and the possible site areas in Heritage Park. They seem to favor the area adjacent to the community room and the plan from A Touch of Green with some enhancements as well as a pavilion. They even welcomed a water feature near the memorial as well. Now on this drawing here that they supplied to us and which I supplied to the trustees, it's a rendering of a memorial that they were very much in favor of. And actually the additional page that I gave you was the area that's outlined in red here. And that was kind of the area that we targeted, and that's the area that actually is adjacent to the water and the sewer line. So it doesn't vary too far from the original master plan. So I had Alana put a copy of each one of the slideshows in everybody's mailbox so that they would get to see it. One of the things that they really stressed was that they would really like to get this project off the ground. They said we've been working on it for some time and they would really like to see it move forward. So after the presentation, the committee looked at the master plan. And when we looked at the master plan, we realized how much the plan represented what Lou and Mike were showing us. So that's why I gave you guys the plan that you have on your desk. So I pointed out the blue and green, how the water and the sanitary is in close proximity to the proposed area, and it would definitely keep the cost down. We've had some different ideas about where we would like to put a water feature in Heritage Park, in Center Park, and when it all comes back to it, if we do this, and they would like a compound, the Veterans Memorial spread over this whole area of the adjacent to the community area here in the Village Hall. So with that, we looked at this again, and we just couldn't believe how much our park plan looked like the plan that they were supplying to us. So with that, we kind of brainstormed a little bit to see where we could fit in that area there so that we really didn't vary too much from the master plan. So what we're going to do is the committee decided that we're not going to wait another whole month to be able to put this stuff together. So we are going to be I have a special meeting in a couple of weeks to try to fit in some of their ideas that Lou and Mike had with the ideas of the actual rendering from Touch of Green. One of the things that they stressed that they were totally against was the pavers. And I could understand where they were coming from with this, because they said that it's basically a disgrace to walk on somebody. And I had mentioned that I have 4 family members with Purple Hearts, and they said, well, you really wouldn't want anybody walking all over your family members that have Purple Hearts. So I basically, we really need to just take a look at this, and we are going to incorporate some of their ideas. So with that, Brett Westcott also talked about presenting to the committee the areas where the parking was going to go in the park. So we talked a little bit about that as well. And we talked about relocating, planning, and at the end of the day, there's really not that many trees that are going to be moved. But one of our committee members stressed that the soccer fields really need some shade in their area, that there is no shade there. So we asked Brett Westcott if that would be viable for us to be able to put trees there. And he said yes, but that the priority is to actually replace the dead trees in the park first. So that's where we'll be going. And also we informed the committee that the additional parking for Heritage Park was approved, with the exception of the parking lot over by the baseball fields. So with that, everybody was happy that we were going to be moving forward. We invited the committee to come here today. And the committee basically, the members that were at the meeting were of the thought that, well, how many times are we going to go over the same thing over and over and over again? So with that, whoever had the time to come tonight, thank you for coming. And that's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Reinders. Trustee Consolino?
Okay, so for Environment Committee, we have 2 events that are coming up in September. We have our Lands Day cleanup. We also have our amazing stargazing in the park coming up. Those are both towards the end of the month, so I'd like to ask everybody to please keep an eye both on social media and on our website for the upcoming details. And if you'd like to sign up for the Lands Cleanup Day at our park. The township officials left, didn't they? I don't see them out there. Because I have a little bit of interest in what they spoke about. So, especially because we've received so many complaints to this board. I know I have received a lot, especially with being on environment. And if this situation is doable, if it's my understanding that the Homer Township Road District could take over that road, I would like to explore the feasibility of that, if that would, if it was doable. I'm not sure if it is. I want to request that they do a workshop, if it is feasible, where they can discuss this with the residents that live in the surrounding area. I also want to ensure that this won't be a burden on the taxpayers. So I'll make sure that I go to the next township meeting and discuss that, if anybody else wants to go, and then I'll follow this up with an email to them. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Consolino. Village Clerk?
No, the only thing I ask is, Trustee Reinders, can you forward me a copy of, just so that I can attach it to the minutes? Thank you.
Yes.
That's it? Public safety officials? No. Village attorney? Oh, we don't even, oh, I skipped the attorney. Sorry.
No report.
All right, that leads to me. I apologize, but my report's a little long. So some have asked for a 100-day report. In a nutshell, it's been rather busy. From board meetings to special meetings, committee meetings to school meetings, Hadley Road to Bell Road, cemeteries to open space, American Water to wastewater, boundary agreements to ordinances, and public hearings to public hearings to public comments. It's been a rather interesting 3.5 months. I've attended 62 meetings since I took office 3.5 months ago, and 63 if you include today. I've received more phone calls, emails, and Facebook messages than I can even possibly respond to. I will ask residents who have concerns or questions from now on to please email me directly at mayorchristina@homerglenillinois.org. With that being said, I would like to thank the board members who are actually working together to get things accomplished and offering to assist wherever needed. Because the truth is, we all want the best for this village. Sometimes we have a different way of getting there, but most of the time our destination is the same. Over the last 100 days, I've also had to deal with a select few nipping at the way I do things, or the way I conduct this meeting. I like to let those know that even if your nip turns into a bite, it doesn't affect how I lead this board to our destination. Again, we're all in the same boat. I made a promise to get all of us rowing in the same direction, and I haven't given up on that promise. At first, we were spinning in circles, and now that we've gotten to understand how each other work, and we've gotten to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, we are finally getting to where we need to be. And for those who are intentionally trying to make this boat sink, I suggest you jump out and start doggy paddling, because the next 100 days are going to move a lot faster and get a lot harder. I will have an official 100-day report coming soon with the assistance of Gia. Thank you, Gia. But as I stated earlier, with everything going on, I've not had a minute to myself to actually sit down and write out a 100-day report. So that will be coming soon. The other thing I'd like to add is I know there were some people out here talking about Hadley Road. I do have a meeting on Thursday with the transportation director. I do have some questions about that on some conversations that we had about the road takeover, so I'd like some clarification on that as well. I forgot what Mr. Bonomo said, but did he say the expo was on 9/16 from 10 to 2? I wasn't clear on that.
Yes, 9/16, 10 to 2.
It was a great event last year. They really did a good job on that. I recommend that everybody attend. Trustee Reinders, you had mentioned the parks. It was I that asked for Jim from TRIA to attend tonight's meeting to give a presentation, as this board has agreed to have a joint meeting with the Parks Committee to have a full understanding of where the village left off prior to COVID. And that was an agreement that this board had to do a combined meeting, because it was my impression that when I attended the Parks meeting, they never got that official report. In fact, they never even got a park plan book.
There were some of us that did not know.
Right, so I wanted it's not here for TRIA to sell themselves or to say that we're taking on TRIA. The Parks Committee has made it very clear that they want to move forward with Touch a Green. I don't think anybody has a problem with that. I just think it's very important that we know what the actual park plan was and where we want it to go. It's kind of like a puzzle. We had all the pieces laid out perfectly, and then all of a sudden we put them all back in a box, shook it up, and are trying to move the puzzle pieces all around. And I want to make sure that at the end of the day, our puzzle lines up perfectly. So that was the purpose of, and I don't want anybody to think it was anything else other than that. In regards to the school, is Mr. Rohde still in here? I don't see him. I do appreciate his sentiments. However, when the school situation came about, and I don't mean to speak for the three of you, but when the school situation came about, Trustee Stylen, Trustee Mason, and Trustee McNaughton were made aware. I'll take fault. I will take 100% fault for them not speaking out and making the statements in which they wished to have made early on when this situation came about. I had asked them to hold tight until I can investigate with the school board and find out more information on what was going on. It's very hard to separate the rumors from the facts when everything's going crazy all at once. So I apologize to you three for asking you to hold tight until I could figure out what was going on. Your sentiments actually were the same as Trustee Reinders, to hold still, because there were many threats of litigation and lawsuits, and I really think that the four of you and everybody else was putting the village first and not putting ourselves in the same possible situation the school board could have possibly been in. So what I feel that this board was doing was protecting ourselves from a possible lawsuit. So again, I apologize, and I'll take full blame for asking you guys to hold tight and not say anything. And that concludes my report. Moving on to consent agenda. Consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of August 11th, 2023 through August 24th, 2023 in the amount of $510,028.91.
So moved. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
The new sheet.
Can you give me the exact number, please? All right, I'm just gonna. Oh, isn't that nice? All right, I'm gonna read that again. Consider for approval the accounts payable for period of August 11th, 2023 through August 24th, 2023 in the amount of $446,256.38. And consider for the approval of the treasurer's report of cash and investments for the period ending June 30th, 2023. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Motion carries. L1, consider for approval resolution number 23-012, a resolution approving an interim, what happened?
What's the balance at the end of it, the balance of the cash and investment, the dollar amount?
I'm sorry, we can't have question and answer during the board meeting. You can approach us afterwards. Thank you.
On the internet?
Yes, you can contact the village tomorrow or find it on the internet. Thank you.
I would answer you, I just don't have it in front of me right at the moment. Okay. Was that it, Joe? Okay. Consider for approval resolution number 23-012, a resolution approving an interim village manager agreement with Joseph D. Baber.
So moved.
Is there,
I'll second it.
is there any discussion? Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Fialko?
Yes. What I'd like to do is take a closer look at this. Just to break it down, for the increase, just so the public knows, there's 26 pay periods. That in the page 3 of 6 comes down to $1,197 of an increase over for each of those 26 pay periods. But what I'd like to do is take a look, have everybody take a closer look at one section on this, and that would be 45 cents, anytime. Okay, number 6 on page 4. I'm happy with all this up to this point where it says, or being appointed to that position by the village president. I would like to make a motion to strike that only because it doesn't fit with 45-7 and our ordinance that we already have. It's actually the corporate authorities that make that decision together. And corporate authorities, the definition of corporate authority includes the mayor or the president of the village. So I would like to strike make the motion to strike in number 6 on page 4, or being appointed to that position by the village president, and leave the rest of it all together. Other than that, I don't see anything other than that, so I need a second.
And you'll send the exact verbiage to, well, we have it in the ordinance of what it says. What was that ordinance number, 46?
It's you mean the order, 46-7, or 45-7.
45-7.
I'll second that.
So roll call on the
Were there any
motion to
more?
strike.
Was there any more discussion, though, to make more amendments, or is that it? Okay.
That was it, but then we usually, right, you're saying take a vote on that, and then if there's other discussion, we can continue, right?
Right.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Were there any more changes to this? No more discussion? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll? Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Motion carries. L2, consider for approval ordinance number 23-048, a request for a special use permit to allow a swimming pool to be located in a side yard for certain real property located in the A2 Rural Residential District at 16549 South Parker Road, Homer Glen, Illinois.
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason, Trustee Consolino?
No discussion.
Trustee Mason?
Nope.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Trustee Fialko?
The only thing I want to point out is this went through our planning commission, and that was voted on 5-0 to adopt, so that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Reinders? Trustee McNaughton?
No, thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Motion carries. L3, consider for approval ordinance number 23-049, a request for a variance to reduce the required side yard setback for the proposed residential single-family detached dwelling from 25 feet to 15 feet for certain real property located in the R1 Single-Family Residential District at 13631 South Maple Avenue, also known as Lot 87, in Robert Bartlett's Creekwood Subdivision, Homer Glen, Illinois, HG 2318B.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee
I will
Fialko?
second.
Trustee Mason? Trustee Fialko?
Just so the public knows, we had approved this back in on July 14th of 2021. The way I understand it through Melissa today in our discussion, that they had some problems with contractors, engineering, getting all that stuff, similar things to that, that they were working on, but this expired over a year ago. Normally, we would just give an extension on this like we have in the past, but for this one, however, it slipped through the cracks and the hardships that the homeowner was having, that's why they're back to us again with the same. I did ask Melissa, are there any changes compared to what was approved back in 2021, and there are not. So my recommendation would be just to look at it like we were extending it and vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Fialko. Trustee Mason?
My sentiments are exactly the same. It's already passed once before. I don't know why we wouldn't. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful property, and with everything that's in light of us, I would recommend to pass it.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Reinders?
No, we actually discussed at length that the last time this came before us about the flooding and the drainage, and the neighbors, there were some neighbors that did attend, and they seem to have worked everything out, so no, I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you. Trustee McNaughton?
No, thank you.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Aye. Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 4, consider for approval ordinance number 23-050, an ordinance establishing a moratorium on the issuance of liquor licenses except for Class E and Class J licenses for a period of 6 months.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Trustee Consolino?
Okay, we didn't include anything about the massage licenses in this. And I just received some stuff from one of our planning commission members. So I'm going to make the request to table this. I would like more involved. Am I on the right one? Okay, yeah.
We could almost amend this now so you get it covered, and just like Trustee Stalin was saying, that we need, I think if we table it It's okay if I speak.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey,
As long as we're all getting
If
along.
we table it now, what we're going to do is delay things, and we did have somebody speaking about a project they're working on. I do have my comments in a minute, but I think we would be better off amending this to make it fit the criteria to include the massage, tobacco, gaming, and the liquor that says on here, so.
So I'm going to have to say no to that. It's not on the agenda. There was no notice given to the public, so we're not going to be able to amend this to loop in other things, the moratorium, whether it's tobacco or massages or whatever we're thinking about doing. The public has to have notice on our agenda what we're about to take action on. So there was no proper notice given, so we're not going to be able to do that tonight.
That, okay.
I'm going to ask.
I talked to Joe Bayer today about this, and the public was notified. It was said at the last meeting. It wasn't, it was...
On the agenda, sir.
What's that?
It has to be on the agenda, sir.
OMA rules say you can change any part of anything and include things as you progress. That is not factual. But the thing is, I don't see why, we don't want to delay things for the liquor license, but we also have other things that we have to cover. So I don't know, is anybody on this board opposed?
Well, if I may clarify, there was a motion for table. I'm assuming it failed due to no second. Is that correct? I just want to clarify where we're at.
No, we still want a discussion, so there was no motion yet to table.
So the table is off the table?
I had said I was thinking to table it.
Okay.
So I didn't make the motion yet.
Okay, so I just have a question before anyone else discusses. When it says liquor licenses, right, so the moratorium, and I'm so proud I can say that word, but, because it's hard, but does that include gaming, since the liquor license is attached to gaming? Since the gaming basically falls under, it doesn't, it's two separate, totally two totally separate. Okay.
I believe there's a single link in it to get a gaming license if you have a liquor license.
Right.
There are other instances in the gaming ordinance where you can also get just gaming without having any liquor licensing.
Okay.
They're totally separate.
Okay.
Can I clarify too that we don't have a separate massage licensing ordinance at all right now? The only thing we have is a special use required for massage, and then it would come for a business license only. So just to clarify that.
Right.
I would like to just ask why, I know at the last board meeting, massage and gaming were mentioned. Do we know why this wasn't added in here?
I do not.
You do not?
It was oversight.
Oversight.
Because I did request that.
I remember Trustee Hanselino.
What we can do is add those 3 items to the next agenda.
So we can work on this one, get this one done, and then next meeting, we will do massage
Put
and...
those 3 on the agenda.
What were the additional? So massage, gaming, and?
Tobacco.
Tobacco, okay.
And we'll put that on the next agenda.
And just so I'm clear, it's massage and tobacco, no gaming, because somebody just said gaming.
No gaming, gaming as well.
Gaming as well.
Gaming, so there's 3, okay.
Yes. Does that...
All 4 of those were mentioned at our last meeting.
Yes.
You said 4, and I thought there was 3. Oh, liquor included. Okay. Does it...
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in a motion to table.
I'll second that.
I didn't state that. Okay, so we're tabling this, or we're voting on this?
Tabling.
Okay.
Motion and a second to table, correct? That's what I heard.
Trustee
And now we can vote on
Consolino made the motion to table. Who made the second?
it. Dan.
Trustee Fialko?
Fialko.
And I forgot to state, Trustee Reinders will abstain, not abstain, recuse herself as this pertains to liquor. All right, Madam Clerk, any more discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
I think you have to still call Trustee Reinders for her to recuse herself. Is that right?
No.
No? Okay.
She just doesn't participate.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Consider for a motion to assign a Class E liquor license, temporary license, to our Mother of Good Counsel, hosting an event at 16043 South Bell Road, Homer Glen, for the parish fundraiser picnic held on Sunday, August 27th, 2023, from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. And again, Trustee Reinders will recuse herself.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Fialko?
Nope, nothing.
Trustee Consolino? Trustee McNaughton?
No, thank you.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee Stylen? No. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Moving on to item 8, as 6 and 7 removed. Consider for approval a quote from Current Technologies to upgrade our background server in the amount of $12,871.07.
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Mason, Trustee Consolino?
Joe, is there a reason that we didn't go out for any bids and why we just stayed with?
This is a reoccurring expense with Current Technologies, and Mike also has some additional information that we just received this afternoon regarding pricing for this upgrade.
Yeah, as Joe said, this is a recurring bill with Current Technologies for our Barracuda software, but we recently found out that our server is running out of capacity. So we were going to upgrade the server. And included in this quote is now the server upgrade cost. But I did ask them if we could do a 36-month term instead of a 12-month term, and they just got back to us late, but they did come back, and if we were to do a 36-month term, we would save about $2,290. So I gave you guys this quote to be at the dais at each of your stations. So you could take a look at that. It's about a 10% savings on both the hardware and then the service. And the services that are a part of this quote are based upon a percentage of the server use. So if we lock in this price now, that price will not go up every year like it has been since 2018 for the next 3 years if we lock in the 36-month quote.
Thank you, Mike.
It would be our benefit to go with a little bit longer term contract for these services. We'd save more money.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino, is that all you had? Trustee Fialco? I'm sorry, Trustee Mason?
Actually, I read through it and I saw most of that information already. And I appreciate you guys getting out the updated pricing, because that threw me for a second. But again, I read that, and this is something that we need, and the server is at 90% of capacity, so I get it. Thank you very much.
Trustee Fialco?
Nothing.
Trustee Reinders? Trustee Stylen?
I just have a question. So are you changing this motion to be from 12,000 to this 22,000? Or is this the actual, what we're...
The updated.
Well, if you guys would like to go with the 36-month, yes, the 36-month quote for 22,000, yes. That's correct.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
It was put at your dais.
It was a supplement sheet.
Yeah,
put on
there was an
the
additional
dais.
sheet at the dais.
So,
Well, that wasn't what was read, so that's why now we're going to have to open discussion up again, because
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, is there a motion to go from, or to accept the $22,986.74?
I'll make that motion.
So you're amending, okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we're going to go back around the room.
So let's have a vote on that.
well, we have to,
Have a
you're saying to
discussion.
increase it to the, how many months is that, Mike?
36 months, 3 years.
36, okay. But
So I'll make the motion to amend
We need
it
to
to
have
the $22,986.74 and to the 36
Right.
months.
So do you have anything to discuss on the 36?
No, as
Or
I
22,
stated,
I mean?
as I stated earlier, I was thrown, but I read through it, but
Okay.
thank you.
Trustee McNaughton, do you have anything?
No, thanks for the negotiation.
Trustee Stylen, do you have anything on the new, as we cut you off in your last conversation?
thank you. No, I think I understand. This is, part of this is built in that, I talked to Mike Pierce earlier today, the quote with this amount, we currently pay Current for these services, so some of that is built into this amount.
Correct.
So, and I do see the value in going to a 36-month agreement.
Thank you. Trustee Fialco?
what I would say is, with the way IT stuff works, Mike, you
Yes.
know best, there's a lot of changes. And in
Correct.
that time period, I really think that's too long of a time period for technology of this kind, because things could change.
Yeah.
And because we did this, have done this before on an annual basis, I really think it's better to think that, to go on an annual basis I know the price, I mean, we're tripling the cost from what you basically had it at, right? And I think with how fast technology changes, it would be make a mistake to spend the money not knowing what the technology may be 2 years from now or 3 years from now. So that would be my advice. I'm saying no.
So if I may, line item 1, the actual server, that is a one-time payment, the $6,000. The rest of it is services that we pay for throughout the year. We purchased back in 2018 a server from them as well, the one-time payment, and that was a 4 terabyte server, and it lasted us these 5 years. This server would double our capacity, assuming it'll last us at least another 5 years. So I think a 3-year contract is within the realm of, it'll be okay.
I'm okay with taking and getting the new equipment. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I still believe that equipment will be very old in a short period of time because that's just the way we're moving right now.
Yeah.
And with a lot of other things that are going on with tech. So to me, I would think that it would be best for this village not to spend that kind of money and just go on an annual basis, and we can adjust for the things that become more current as we get to those years. To overinvest in something 3 years out from now where that technology moves at a pace that's pretty fast, I think would be a mistake. That's all I've got.
Trustee Reinders? Sorry, Trustee Hensley.
On this one, I have to agree with Dan because, as we know, I mean, you buy an iPhone and within 6 months, your iPhone is obsolete. So the equipment that we're going to be purchasing here could be very well obsolete within a year or so. So for us to take a 3-year contract, and if that happens, then we're locked into 3 years in in the $22,000. So I just think that with the way technology is advancing, it doesn't make any sense to lock us in for a 3-year contract.
Is that all? Trustee Cancelino?
I would have preferred to shop around, especially because the number changed tonight. No, I'm not comfortable, so thank you.
I have a question. Is there a contract with this? I don't see a contract.
I was doing some digging, and we did enter an agreement with them for just 1-year contracts for the services provided in line items 2, 3, and 4. Those services are just 1-year contracts that renew every year it's based on the percentage of server use. So if we were to sign the 3-year contract, we would be locking in what our server use is right now for the next 3 years. So the price would be cheaper. But I understand what the other trustees were saying and about technology changing and not wanting to be a 3-year contract.
I do have to agree that technology changes rather quickly. And 36 months, just like Trustee Reinders said, our phones change.
Yeah.
And I didn't see this till today, this additional quote, so I haven't had time to go back and forth with you and pick your brain on some things. I'm going to go around the room again for a second discussion if anybody has anything else to add. Trustee Mason?
Yes, Mike, when you mentioned we're buying the equipment.
Correct.
The rest of this is part of the service contract.
Yes.
And is the old equipment currently working and operable, the stuff you bought in 2018?
Yes.
And when technology changes, which it does rapidly, as we all know, does this server, is it able to process the information that may be coming in? And because we're at 90% of capacity, is this going to be able to process the information 3 years from today?
It should. Based on our current usage, the last server lasted us 5 years. This server should last us another 5 years, at least.
Thank you, sir.
Trustee McNaughton?
Yeah, my only, I guess, question around this, maybe a comment. Looks like the smaller financial outlay here is for hardware, which could be what Trustee Fialko was speaking towards in terms of technology and how quickly things are outdated these days. But it looks like item 2 is for unlimited cloud storage, which is irrelevant in terms of technology updates. Item 3, the same thing. That is for the updates of software for that hardware. And then item 4, I'm not sure what that means in terms of instant replacement. If you could speak to that.
Instant replacement is a service that they provide that if anything on the server that we're getting breaks, they will send us new hardware immediately.
So it seems like the majority of the cost is for technology updates, for cloud services, et cetera, and it's a smaller portion which is for hardware, and if anything happens to that, we're covered as well.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Fialko?
Yes, Mike?
Yes.
I think we all know what Trustee Mason was trying to say. The equipment is included. We know that.
Yes.
In this price for $12,000, the new equipment is included.
Yeah.
The only thing we have to be careful with is putting ourselves in a spot where the other part of that technology could change also. And so we're not cutting back by just approving what you wanted originally. We're not cutting back on equipment. We're not cutting back on the package. We're just approaching it in a more cautious manner, one step at a time, instead of jumping into something for 3 years. To me, I think that was important to know that your equipment, you're getting your equipment even with the $12,000. So we're getting what you need. We're upgrading the server because you are up at 90%. But with this new stuff included in the $12,000 isn't really going to stop anything, and we can still continue to look at this on an annual basis, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is the way to go. Giving you your new equipment, giving you the upgrade, and yet still having that service protection plan, for the 1 year.
Did it? Trustee Reinders?
No, nothing. It was when I first said.
Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, I was just going to say, the difference, though, in the purchase of the equipment is $600.
Correct.
So,
yeah, but if we were to sign the 36-month contract, we would get about a 10% discount on the equipment and the services as well.
And then the services, one is $200 less, or, it all added up to about, you said a $2,000 savings over the 3 years?
A little over 2,000, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if iCloud storage rates have gone down. I mean that's with changes in technology. I'm just throwing that out there because you are going to be paying a little bit more. I don't mind 1-year contracts, but he was talking about a $2,000 savings. So
Historically, each year we've signed this contract as well, the price has increased because it's based on our server usage. So every year we use more of our server, the price increases.
Was that it, Trustee Stylen?
Yeah.
Trustee Consolino? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you tell me what motion we're on? We're on to approve the $22,986.74. That's the motion we're currently on. For 36 months, right?
He made a motion to amend it to the new
To amend it, okay.
So we're voting now on that motion to amend, not the actual motion itself.
Right.
As far as I agree.
Glad you guys
I didn't
know
catch
where
who
we're
the
at.
second was, but I Kurt in a second.
And
And I
McNaughton.
also said the 36 months, which is the $2,000 savings that Mrs. Trustee Stylen is stating.
Okay, so we're in the motion to amend the original motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
No.
Trustee Consolino.
No.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
No.
Mayor Knightsky-Trikey.
I really don't know, because I just got this today.
Yeah, I understand.
So I'm going to have to say no.
All right.
I'm sorry. But we still have a motion on the table
Yeah.
for the original motion, $12,871.07.
So let's call the roll on that.
And let's call the roll on that.
Trustee Consolino.
No, that's fine.
Trustee Mason.
I'll agree, no.
Trustee Stylen.
No.
Trustee McNaughton.
No.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Now you know how I feel. All right, so now what?
Now he brings back a proposal at the next meeting if he wants
So-
to, more comprehensive.
Right.
But the renewal is due September. So September 1st. So we won't, we can't bring it to the next meeting. But I can just sign the original contract without upgrading the server, so that wouldn't be necessarily brought to a meeting.
Can you do?
But then we might run out of server storage, so.
Like, I don't.
The intent here was just to give an
Wait,
option.
Mike, the
for that-
quote says it's good to 9/21. So how do we expire on the 1st?
Well, our
do they give us like a month to month after?
the Current has floated services for us before, so I assume that is why that quote is expiring that day. They also just, all their quotes are for 30 days.
You know what you do? You tell them they gave us this quote at 8/22, and our meeting, was today, and that we just didn't have enough time.
Okay, for sure.
See if they can extend it a little bit for us.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, number 9, consider for approval ordinance number 23-051, establishing guidance to public meetings adhering to the Open Meetings Act that amends the Homer Glen Village Code, Section 5-3A, regarding establishing a quorum post the COVID-19 disaster proclamation that terminated effective May 11th, 2023.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Fielko and Trustee Hanson. If I may, can I go first? Trustee Fielko, do you mind?
Not at
I just
all.
want to explain something because I know there were some questions. This is what the state is recommending, if I'm correct. And it may possibly change again in the future from what I hear because of COVID coming back. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that this is nothing that the village board is requesting to do. This is something that came from the state. Thank you, Trustee Fialco, for giving me the grace to go first. Now go ahead.
Actually, it's 5 ILCS 120/7, and they do give you the opportunity to amend it how it would fit.
Right, you can make it stricter.
You can make it stricter,
As
you
I
can
said.
make it, yes. But after May 11, 2023, it went back to the old rule. Looking at this though, the only thing I see that we really should be taking a look at is when we look at page 3 of 5, and when they do have verbiage in here that they don't really want it to be abused. And on the last sentence, basically, on page 3 of 5, it says the public policy of the state that members of the public body shall conduct their business in the physical presence of the public. So that's what they're encouraging. Now, this is supposed to be something that is used occasionally, not to be abused. And so, what I had been told by IML when I asked them previously when this was happening, Brad Cole, I think is his name, he says you can take and you can make this, or it said somewhere in there, but I'd like it to read in here by making a motion to amend, and here's what I'd like to amend.
Where would you like it to be amended?
Where it says D on page 3, and it would be 1, 2, 3, the 4th line down, committee has, as the case may be, may, by the majority of a vote before roll call of this body. So it would just be that we, first, the request needs to go to the clerk, if you read to this, or if it's for a committee, it's got to go to the secretary of that committee. Then the next thing is, you can do this, but it would make sense to, by a majority vote before the roll call, which is letter D on our agenda, that we would make and take that vote to allow the member to be absent and call in electronically, however that may be. Because in here it does say personal illness, disability, family or other emergency, unexpected child care obligations, and employment. Well, so we don't abuse this, I would like to make the motion to amend letter D, the 4th line down, to include may by a majority vote before roll call in letter D of our agenda.
And I don't want to throw a fly into the ointment, but
sure,
because it's a majority of the Board of Trustees voting, just so I understand it, because you're doing it before roll call, so we don't have a quorum, right?
Oh,
So I think, I have a problem, one, taking action before we've established a quorum, allowing somebody to participate.
okay, then we can make it right after roll call. I was thinking of it the other way. You know how I was thinking, well, then they would be part of the meeting as roll call. But you're right. You're absolutely right.
And then my second point on that one is, so hypothetically speaking, and I just want to, this is a hypothetical. There's 3 trustees in the room. There's 1 waiting on the phone to participate to give us a quorum. Under this rule, we'd already have to, the way you're proposing, just so we're clear, there would have to be 4 trustees present at the meeting. The 5th and the 6th could be asking to participate remotely, but we would have to have a quorum here before we would allow.
Right, yes.
Right. Is that, just so we all understand how it works?
It says that, right? If a quorum, D,
That's how
the
it was
first
done
sentence, that's
before.
how it's already worded.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yes.
It's worded that way already.
I've got a question.
Different interpretations. Just want to make sure.
Care if I ask this question? When you look at the highlighted area on the back, it doesn't say unexpected child care obligations. So I know we can make the law stricter, but I don't think we can make it more lucrative. I don't see that child care unless I'm not reading it right. I don't know.
What is it that you said you can't see on there?
Where it says unexpected child care, is that
It
in there?
says number 4 is unexpected child care obligations.
You're looking there, I'm looking here. In the statute, it doesn't say that.
Yep.
It ends at a family emergency.
Personal illnesses, employment purposes, family or other emergency.
Yeah.
It should stay as close to the statute.
Yeah, so I don't
Okay,
know
so-
how that was added in there, but I know we can't add more reasons. We could take reasons out, we just can't add more reasons.
All right, so I'll make that part of it if you want. So to add may, at that section, may by a majority vote after roll call, letter D of our agenda, and to to remove number 4, expected child care obligations, and only have 1, 2, and 3 in there.
What about 3?
Well, that's in the statute.
Right.
Is that in there, Madam?
It is.
Yes.
You don't believe me?
Gia, did you have something? Oh.
Was there something?
It is. The state statute reads, if a quorum of the member, this is really small, so I apologize. But the reason it gives is attend a meeting by other means if the member is prevented from physically attending because of personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or the business of the public body, or in family or other emergency, other means. I don't think, does unexpected child care fall
I think
into
that would fall into family emergency anyway.
Right.
It kind of falls into the same thing. When I got the information back from the attorney's office, Marissa, she clarified the 4 things. I interpreted it as 3, she clarified, she put the 4th, so I'm not sure, she may have seen this already someplace before, we're probably.
So we don't need unexpected child care if it's already covered in family emergency. Okay.
Right, I agree.
Okay.
Well, I'm fine either way, I followed her lead.
So with the ordinance I have before me and the motion on the amendment that I was making, just to clarify, I'd like to make it so in that 4th line, may by a majority vote after roll call, letter D of the agenda, and then to remove number 4 out of this unexpected child care obligations, knowing that it falls actually under number 2.
Okay, is there a second for that?
I'll second.
All right, so is any more discussion on this? All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. You're good? Oh, you want discussion? Oh, Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, I just want to say that I find this very difficult to be the judge of if we're going to have a roll call and if somebody's going to attend a meeting, is it a family emergency, is it a business, and when the board's divided, is somebody going to be said, the board going to say no, and sometimes they're going to say yes to someone?
That was a suggestion of IML.
We would hope that people wouldn't be vindictive.
Well, I would hope that as well.
All right, let's go with nobody will be vindictive.
To stick with the state statute is best practice.
Yeah.
We'll do the best. I mean, it's the state statute. We can't, I mean, you can just throw it out and say, no, you have to be here. But at the same time, I'm hoping we're all, remember that boat I was talking about? All right. Anybody else have any more discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
This is the roll call on the amended.
Yes. You want to repeat it again?
Okay.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason? Aye. Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Now we are
That
on.
was actually the amendment. Now we got to change it. Now, I don't know if anybody else wanted to change anything either, so.
Nope.
So now a motion to approve?
Now a motion
to approve it.
Now we call the roll on the motion to approve.
Any more discussion?
No, ma'am.
Nope.
All right. Sue, or Trustee Stylen, you look like you're pondering over there. All right. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
No.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Wait, where are we? Are we, what's the vote? 4 to 2?
Did not pass.
So where are we currently at then? You have to be in person?
Right now?
You have to be in person.
Where we're at right now?
All of that for that. Okay.
I just don't, it didn't follow because we amended it to include.
Dan, I give up.
All right.
All right. Moving on to old business. Anybody have anything for old business?
I have some old business.
Trustee Mason.
All right, I'd like to address the township and the HTRO and Mr. Rhodey, who, too bad, took off too early. That's unfortunately. I actually have a granddaughter that goes to Young. I'm well aware of what transpired over the weekend. You do not have to take, you have big shoulders, but the blame for me, I was out of town working in another city. Jay indicated that this was part of politics and that I was a Republican, excuse me, and that I was a Republican, which I am. Jay and I obviously don't have the same policies and the same ideology, regardless of what and how I vote. Mr. Bonomo had stated the same sort of thing, and I also don't agree with his policies either. So I just want to make that clear. Jay, you don't know me. We're not friends. We're not buddies. This isn't about politics. I happen to be out of town. I did know what's going on, and I'm not a social media monster like some of these people out here. The next thing I'd like to discuss is the transfer of the road to Homer Village from Mr. Bailage. I always hear the word no taxes, and then my taxes go up, so I don't trust it. I would like to ensure that this is true before that transpires. The last thing that I would like to talk about is I also talked to Mr. McAuliffe. I call him, I know him personally, and he did not like the idea of, and this refers to the Veterans Memorial. He has some great ideas. He has some fantastic ideas. He took what Trustee Reinders had put together. He took what TRIA had put together. He took what transpired in Iowa and put it together, and he picked out some of these things that work and some of the things that don't. One of them was walking over our soldiers' names, which I had mentioned a while back. I spoke to Mike. He didn't like it. He told me that no one had ever asked him or their opinion. I asked him how he had actually ended up at the Parks Committee, and he told me because he basically invited himself and had asked to be invited. And I do believe that some of his ideas could be incorporated, but again, I keep reminding myself why we keep paying for double and triple and quadruple things that we've already paid for, but I'll address that later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mason. Was there any other old business? Trustee McNaughton? Trustee Stylen?
I just have one thing. There were no minutes to be approved for this meeting, and I believe they were tabled, and my understanding, they should be coming, if they're tabled, I would expect that they would appear at the next meeting to be approved. So whatever is holding them up, If I understand that the clerk sent out an email to everybody asking for reasons that they were tabled so that she could correct whatever needs to be adjusted in the minutes. So I'm asking that that be done so that we do not get behind any further on approving our minutes.
Thank you, Trustee Stylen. Trustee Fialko?
I don't have anything.
Trustee Reinders?
I would just like to address Trustee Mason. As far as the Parks Committee is going, we are the recommending body of the committee, and you were invited to come to the meeting on Monday, and you were invited for other, I have reached out to you on several occasions, and you have never once responded to me at all. So I would appreciate if you had a comment to make on my committee or anything that was going on in my committee, that you would please address me as the chair. Give me that respect. That's all.
Thank you, Trustee Reinders. Trustee Consolino? I don't even know where I'm going in order.
I would
Is there
like
any more old business?
to inquire as to when we can motion up executive session meeting minutes.
I'm sorry, say that again?
When can we motion up executive session meeting minutes for
You can do it anytime.
Okay. I would like to.
You want that on the next agenda? To review executive session minutes in executive session? Mr. Baber, would you make sure that that's on the next agenda, please? Is there any more old business? I do have a couple of things. In regards to the minutes, yeah, I feel Candace's, village clerk's pain with doing these minutes. They're extensive, they're long, there's a lot of back and forth. I ask that we give her a little grace and when you get your packet, if you have the minutes and you have questions or concerns on them, get them to her before the meeting so then she can present us with the changes at the time that are proposed. Let's be fair, right? It's a lot of work and then it just starts to build up over time. The other thing I had was Hadley Road. I know I mentioned it earlier. I know that the township is looking at taking over the roads. Why can't the village do it? Can the village just take the roads? I mean, if they're in our jurisdiction, why aren't we I know we are. I know that was discussed prior to. I just don't know where it was going back and forth with the township and the village.
We'll go investigate that.
Yeah, I think it'd be better suited in the village, my personal opinion. Okay, I do have to address a couple of things as well. Over the last week, some board members on this board have been talked about on Patch and at board meetings and at other places about, from Highway Commissioner Brent Portfolio. And I usually don't respond to statements that are false, and I just don't even play the game, but I'm going to break my own rule this one time. I don't appreciate people making assumptions at all, let alone one of these board members, regardless of who they are. Unless you know the truth and the facts, I ask that people don't make assumptions. The last board meeting here at the village, I requested that Mr. Portfolio did not speak. I did not forbid, I just requested that he not, because we have our own engineer that can attest to anything that Mr. Portfolio was going to present us with. In fact, there was a situation that I was made aware of on July 24th. There was a complaint made by somebody to the Illinois EPA. We received that complaint on July 10th. I was made aware on July 24th. We received the complaint on July 10th. As mayor, I was aware on, again, July 24th. You know when Trustee Stylen was made aware of it? July 26th. When he insinuated that Trustee Stylen made this complaint herself, it's kind of hard to make a complaint however many days after the complaint was actually made. Once I found out about the complaint, I addressed staff and asked staff to take a look into it, in which they did immediately. Came to find out the complaint was real, that the person had the right to make the complaint. The complaint was the area was more than an acre. Brett Westcott went out there and measured it himself, and yes, it was over an acre. Mr. Portfolio challenged that number and said it was not. So because the two of them could not come to an agreement on a number, the Illinois EPA said, you know what, we'll figure it out ourselves, and we will attend Trantina and measure it for ourselves. And guess what? It was over an acre. Again, the village received the complaint on July 10th. We had a board meeting July 12th, and we all sat here and listened to Mr. Porfilio make comments about Trustee Stylen over and over and never once mentioned the complaint or anything else. Now the soil matters he continues to talk about, again, not Sue. I asked Sue to step in because as I read earlier in my 100-day report, I am being bombarded with different situations happening in this village. And I do have to give credit to Trustee Reinders, who's constantly, and Trustee Mason, who's constantly saying, what can I do to help? Trying to take things off my plate. This job is not easy. But I will say I thank Mr. Westcott for actually going out there and doing the due diligence to find out what's going on. Mr. Porfilio in his board meeting on August 14th, around minute 7, said he's been in communication with the village board and the mayor for the last 10 weeks about what's happening at Trantina Farm. Never once have I received a phone call or an email on anything that's happening at Trantina Farm, ever. In fact, I've asked multiple times. I've asked the staff to try to figure out what's going on, and I've gotten zero response. Personally, I'm tired of the constant attacks. I just talked about how we're all supposed to be rowing in the same direction. It's kind of hard when you've got these roadblocks in your way telling you you're doing this wrong or making false accusations. It's tiresome. We all want to go to the same place. Stop getting in the way. Stop making false accusations, and stop, and for crying out loud, stop going to other meetings and making up more garbage and talking about integrity. And Jay said it perfectly. We're not integrity anymore, and they're not Homer Forward anymore. We're supposed to be one board. And I cannot say it against Trustee Reinders and I ran against each other. And she's the #1 person helping me with every single thing right now. That's how you do it. This is how it's done. So when I have township highway commissioners constantly attacking, it's not right. That's all I have to say about that. The last thing I do, where are we at on the iPads? Does anybody know?
Mike?
Please, it'd be really helpful. Oh, Mike. Maybe you got a quote on that for us?
Oh, they are already ordered.
Nice.
Yeah, but we did have a issue with the payment with one of our cards, but that's currently.
What?
Yeah.
Something again I don't know about.
It was declined, but I'm not.
We'll talk after.
Yeah. But we're resolving that, and they should be shipping soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
iPads. All right. New business. Anybody have anything new?
I do when it's my turn.
Trustee Fielko?
Recently, I've been getting a couple calls with streetlights.
Microphone, please.
As far as streetlights, as far as streetlights and them being out when the light bulbs go out, I don't know what our process is now because I mean obviously you can't tell during the day, and we don't have employees on the street all the time, right? So I don't know if the sheriff helps out in that regard or if they could. But taking down, besides the calls that come in from the public, to make sure that we stay on top of keeping our lights are already dim enough in the community, and then you take one and knock it out, and it makes it even worse. So what I'd like to do, or say, Joe, if you could, at the next meeting, tell us what that process could be, or...
When the light is out?
No, not when it's out. As far as the village being able to find out the ones that are out, are we waiting for somebody from the village, a resident, to call? Is the sheriff's office marking them down as they drive by them?
Generally, that's it, but I can talk to the sheriff's department and ask for their assistance, and if they do see a light out somewhere, to notify us.
I've been getting a lot of complaints about lights being out, and
I'll have them contact the village. If they're contacting you, Dan, I would say have them contact the village.
I can't hear you, Joe.
Have them contact the village?
No, I know that part.
Right.
That's not what I'm trying to resolve. What I'm trying to resolve is the part where we're not waiting, we're more proactive than reactive. So if a light goes out and the sheriff is driving down on his runs for the night and they can mark it down, this corner, the light is out, I think we need to be a little more proactive in putting that as safety. I mean, because when the lights are out, it is...
I'll bring it up at the safety board, Trustee Fiocco, and I will talk to Lieutenant Taylor about that, and I'll see if we can get the officers to do exactly that and be more proactive.
That thought just kind of came to me now, or otherwise I would have maybe brought it to your attention before.
Yes.
But I'm just trying to think how we could be more proactive instead of reactive, and that would just be one way. I don't know if anybody else has other ideas.
I think that's a perfect solution, and I will reach out to them. I know that our subdivision calls in every time one goes out, but being proactive is even better.
I will also add, I will also add that staff, when the seasons change and it's darker in the morning and they're out working early, they also will report flickering lights, outages as they're noticing. Our road crews and our parks people do also notice that, so.
I'm not talking about the stop and go lights so much as I am the street lights.
I'm talking about the street lights.
Oh, okay, I thought you said the stop and go.
No, the street lights.
Okay.
Sometimes they're out, sometimes they flicker, those. So we do sometimes get noticed ahead of staff or of residents.
And that's it for me. Thank you.
Any other new business? The only thing I had was, obviously it's extremely hot out today. I literally watched a car explode in front of me today on 355, mile marker 11, heading north. I had to call 911 and let them know. I don't know if it was because of the heat, but we've got a lot of seniors in our community. Just check on your neighbors, check on your seniors, make sure they're doing all right. This is the perfect storm for air conditioners to go out, so just make sure that everybody's doing all right. Okay, workshop time. Under workshop, we have Heritage Park discussion. Welcome.
Can I ask a quick question, Joe? How come we don't have any of the slides in with the packet?
They were not available. I didn't have slides available with me.
So, what was it? There was none available?
Correct.
So the purpose of this workshop, like I stated earlier, was just to give, is there anyone from the Parks Committee? I saw some from the Parks meeting. If you guys want to come up or, come, or if you're happy sitting where you're at, I mean, just this more just a presentation to let you know what happened pre-COVID and where we left off.
Why didn't go to you?
Jim? Huh?
Yeah, so slide-wise, the board received, I don't know if the board received, the village received the slides from the last presentation that we actually had, right, from a couple weeks ago, a couple board meetings ago. So Joe and I were talking about what's the best way to kind of bring everyone up to speed, right? There's a lot of history behind what happened at Heritage Park, but I want to kind of focus on the last schematic design presentation to the board. Would probably bring everybody kind of up to speed, but to set the stage and for the Parks Committee, whoever's here, there was the conceptual plan, right, that we call a PRI, Planning Resources Conceptual Plan, comprehensive plan, I should say, sorry. Then TRIA did a master plan. Then we did, board authorizes to do schematic design. And then from schematic design, which I'll present to you today, they authorized us to go do construction documents for cul-de-sac, amphitheater, Village Green, and Veterans Memorial. And then from there, that was kind of the last of where we sat, and I can kind of explain some of those. So this actual presentation here is nothing that was created. It was created back in January 22nd, 2020, right? This is the actual presentation, so I'll actually show you.
Jim, is this the same thing you presented at the previous meeting?
So in this slide deck, where you can see there's a ton of slides in here, that was the slide deck that I used for the last meeting to kind of just touch on. Here's the PRI plan, here's the so-and-so plan. This is that one portion that I'm going to talk about is a schematic design plan.
Okay.
But I kept the slide deck because at the last meeting, there was a lot of questions, and I had to go back and forth to look at all other stuff. So I'll present this so everyone can see it, and then if there's questions and so forth, then we can go from there and figure that one out.
Madam Clerk, can you please note that Trustee Consolino left the meeting at 8:13?
Let's see if this actually goes there. Okay.
Jim, how many slides do you have today?
Oh, I just
This
turned that on.
presentation is less than 10 minutes.
I am not, I asked how many slides.
I didn't count how many are in there, but I can do it under.
There were 181 last time, I just wanted to make sure.
Right, that was this is the same presentation at 181. I'm only doing one portion of it.
I saw 40, you went up to 45, right?
Yeah, I started at slide 45.
45 minus 181?
I'm starting at slide 52.
52 minus 181, or from 181?
Just let them talk so we can move on.
I know, but if I would have got an answer right away, I wouldn't have had to break it down.
Okay.
All right.
So, presentation, again, this was presented to the village in January 22nd, right? There was a summary of how did we get this far. We talked about 2016 was a conceptual park plan by PRI. 2018, there was a master park plan. 2019 was schematic design, if you see that there, right? These are the next levels as you went forward. The meetings that were attended at that time between village board level public meetings, schematic design team meetings, and so forth, this was all on here. Board consensus at that point, to refresh everyone, to move forward with the construction of the next phases in 2020 and 2021 based on the success of the active core and special events. Prioritize the amphitheater/village green area, install swings in the active core. That was completed. There's a need for additional parking based on success of special events. Separate design services and construction management services for future phases of construction. Separate design services and construction management. Implement no new taxes to fund Heritage Park development. No use of MFT funds for Heritage Park to allow for use for other future infrastructure needs. Minimize disturbance of Heritage Park with efficient construction scheduling/phasing. And then not move forward with fishing pond, splash pad, 151st Street parking lot expansion, or Public Works parking lot at this time. So finance funding, you can probably read that one. I know that was a separate discussion. Community feedback, we talked about community feedback just for this portion, right? Remember there was a lot of community feedback in the PRI conceptual plan, comprehensive plan. Board feedback, that was time for the board to give feedback. I don't have those in here because that was just a placeholder. So design team consensus, we were talking about option A, right? We went through this one where it was option area 3A, 4B, which I won't even bore you with the numbers, but it was a sled hill, village green and amphitheater, cul-de-sac road, and active core swings. And then we talked about an option to do select projects, right? And you can see them there. Open play, sled hill, the Village Hall Veterans and 151st Street, Village Green and Amphitheater, activity area, cul-de-sac road, and active core swings. We talked about pricing, right? You can see the yellow there. We kind of broke that out. We discussed with the board pricing. And this was the designs team's recommended action to actually do open play, sled hill, Village Hall, Veterans Memorial, Village Green, amphitheater, activity area, cul-de-sac road, and active core swings. So at that point, board direction, that's when they had voted to proceed with all of those. To go over the areas, to refresh everyone's memory, you can kind of see all the phases here. My mouse actually shows up. I don't think it shows on there. So one was disc golf. That was kind of taken off because the village had already done disc golf. Two, if you look at it, that's where the soccer fields are. That's what they called open play. Three was the sled hill. Now this is the priorities that the board agreed on in terms of their ranking, and that started as the ranking, but things changed afterwards in terms of how they wanted to shift things around. So they just remained as items. Those are the areas. So item 3, area 3 was the sled hill. Area 4, at one point they had told us to break it up because it included amphitheater, Village Green, Veterans Memorial, all of Village Hall, the expansion of 151st, in case 151st got expanded, what they would do in terms of the landscaping there, and then it also included that big sign getting into Heritage Park. So then 5 was kind of the active play area, that's that green area right in the swath right in the middle. And then the other ones that they kind of just dismissed, like 6 was a fishing pond, you see there in the bottom right. 7 was the cul-de-sac road, the yellow. 8 was the parking lot right next to the Village Hall. They left that white because that was low on their priority. 9 was the parking lot next to Public Works. They left that white because that was a low priority for them. That was off the board. And then 10 was the blue, and that was the active core swings, which we know is done. So we talked about all these areas, right? Here's that area 2 was talking about the one soccer field to kind of make sure that we had one full field. The board decided no striping, no nothing, no board, no goals or anything, just grade it so no kids get actually hurt in that area. But you'd also put in the pathway to the south there. You can see that pathway. So this was the schematic design. This is the design that we came up with to kind of show the board and say, we're narrowing down what we want to do or where we can do it. We looked at engineering, we looked at the ground. That's the layout. And you could see the path below. There was a comment about when you did the path around Heritage Park, that the only way to kind of connect, you'd have to actually walk where the cars are in the parking lot. So there was a request from the board to actually put a path just north of here so you can connect these two so you'd stay out. It was a little bit safer, you'd stay out of the parking lot. We talked about the estimate. We talked about the next area, which was the sled hill. If you see the concentric circles, right? We talked to the village about the idea of the master plan of here was centering on Village Hall, the peak. It would be Veterans Memorial in line, kind of an access. It would be the Village Green. It would be the amphitheater, and then in the distance, you would have the sled hill. So it would be a great event. So when you had Homer Fest or 4th of July events, anybody who was sitting there listening to a band, sitting on the lawn, you would have the fireworks and the backdrop of the amphitheater. So that'd be showing there.
Jim, what slide number is this?
This is 77.
Thank you.
So we talked about having a gate, like an entry gate there. We talked about stairs, kind of making that, if everyone has ever went to Swallow Cliff, right, where people can kind of exercise and climb up the stairs. We talked about all of those. The stairs were taken out of the final, what we did for construction documents. So we discussed all of those. We talked about putting a light up there. So there'd be a light so when it gets dark out in the winter months, parents are up there with kids and skiing it. Same as the active core, it would be a button. You'd hit the button and the light would go on for a preset determined amount of time and then go off. So it wouldn't just be on all the time, just if everybody was up there. We even took it and we investigated the slope of each one of the sides, and to kind of make something a little bit more creative, we identified which area would be a bunny hill, if anybody skied before, which one would be a black diamond, which one would be a blue, which one would be a green. Again, we talked about the estimate at that time. Moving on to the next area, and I'm going quick, right, to keep this short. 4A was doing everything around Village Hall, and we talked about it in case 151st Street got expanded, and then putting a gate there at the entrance to Heritage Park. We discussed putting a gate on the other side, closer to the library, but that's more of a Village Hall entrance. It was kind of tougher to put a gate there. So we talked about what you can actually do. So there's an entrance to Village Hall. You turn left into Village Hall, but if you continued, there'd be a gate that would match active core. Everything we did out here and tried to design, just try to keep that concept of the wood, the arches and so forth, even the pylons. So you can see what that would look like. That kind of exactly mimics what the entrance, the main entrance to the active core was. That was taken out by the board at that time and said, this is too expensive, let's concentrate on the things that kind of give people more use of the park. Village Hall. We talked about this before. We talked about Veterans Memorial in the back, but this also included tearing up everything that was back here. All the stuff that was remnants from the old golf course, right? The old, where it was a restaurant patio and so forth, the old pavers, making it more handicap accessible because some of the areas are not handicap accessible. So it was a Veterans Memorial. There was a pavilion over there with benches. Everything was tied to this room because when we did the Village Hall in the original one, we just said this would be the activity room, this would be the community room, keep some areas close where people can go out and still use this area. We found, again, that access there. As you can see, that flagpole right in the center, the American flag. The intent of that one was to actually be higher than the Village Hall. So you'd actually see it going down 151st, so it'd draw your attention to bring people back here and show the sound space for the veterans. If you keep going left, that's all the landscape and everything going all the way around Village Hall, right? Now, the board decided to do everything to that southwest corner and stop there. They decided not to do anything in front of Village Hall in the construction documents. So it was everything in the back of that area, making it handicap accessible. More details on the Veterans Memorial. I showed this at the last one. More renderings of the Veterans Memorial. You can kind of see the American flag, how it's taller than the building, so you can see it from there, that portion. Now this would be directly behind the highest peak of this building. So if you're standing on the Village Green eventually, in that node, you can look one direction and see the flag, you can see the Village Hall, and the other direction, you can see the amphitheater and the Sled Hill Active Core behind that. Here's the estimate. Moving to the next section, this is how we split up 4. So this is 4B. So again, amphitheater, seating area. There was stepped seating areas next to the amphitheater. There was a flat seating area. There was a round node in the middle that we made sure fit the village's tent so they can have events there. And then we had the Village Green as you went south. Village Green, you see those little squares around there. We made sure that there was enough power piped there so we didn't have to dig it up later. And we can put, the village decided not to put all those pads, and those were supposed to be for farmers market. That was supposed to be for the Kris Kringle market. Whatever you actually wanted to do, you can do a car show around the Village Green, around that green, everything possible. It was designed to have car traffic on it.
Jim, what slide is this?
87. And you can see the splash pad was designed on the side there, so everything worked together. So we actually, because the sewer, if you looked all the way to the right of that drawing, 2 lines, dashed lines are there, they're kind of hard to see. One continues all the way up to active core, that's the water. One stops short, that's the sewer. When Village put in the sewer, nobody assumed that it would need to go any further north. So it's built in at an elevation at that point with the slope that if you went really any more further, it would come out of the ground because you need to have a slope for this. So we made sure we kept things close to there that needed toilets, concession stand, splash pad, so forth. That kind of limited where we can place that on the entire park. That's why in active core, you have 2 bathrooms that do not have water, sewer, and so forth in that area. So, amphitheater, you can see the side, the stage areas. Obviously, this has been developed later because this went into construction documents. You can see the curved roof, the estimate for that portion. In the active area, this is, we talked about where we put the splash pad and kind of a nature play area there, how it's connected to that parking lot to the south. But we worked all the grades so that path to this just north of Village Hall continued past it and connected all these events. So it went from the parking lot by the library to Veterans Memorial, Village Hall, to this splash pad, that parking lot, and then all the way out to the other side.
Please let the record show Trustee Consolino re-arrived at the meeting at 8:26.
You can see the detail in terms of the splash pad, play area, how the gateway kind of entering into it. So every area we entered, we always designed those little gateways that you see on active core, the sides and the back of active core. It was something to identify, you're entering in a new space, people can kind of identify, they can search, you can do scavenger hunts, kids can do it. You have 103 acres and you're just trying to provide some wayfinding for this entire park. There's the estimate for the activity area. And again, the activity area was not included in the next phase going forward. Fishing pond. Fishing pond, big concern there was making that ADA accessible. When the 319 grant was actually put in, they put in all those rock outcroppings and so forth so people can stand on. They're great, but they are not handicap accessible. If you can kind of visualize somebody with a handicap chair standing at the top rock, throwing or casting and then catching a fish and bringing it, they'd be dragging their fish along all the rocks and getting them caught on rocks. You need something like a pier or something that would actually overhang the water and be handicap accessible. So we went and gone through all the designs on this one. We tried to figure out how we can kind of block and landscape the Public Works building because they were just right on top of each other and make it look nicer, and the village did a lot of work out there to make it look nicer. Because there was an entrance from the east there, that southeast, that the community was coming in and connecting to Heritage Park. So how to actually make that work. Again, the fishing pier was not included in the phases moving forward. So areas at that point were out of scope from there originally. Talked about cul-de-sac. That parking lot next to Village Hall, parking lot next to Public Works, and then we talked about the swings that were actually done. Those were initial concepts of the swings. You can kind of see just north of there, the little mini ring road that goes around Active Core was meant as a boundary to sit there and say, this is the boundary of Active Core, place everything inside of that. So we always try to earmark where we put. So there was future courts were supposed to be north of the play area and the nature play area, where you can kind of expand. I know that changed later and from tennis to going pickleball, and those are one of the areas, but just so you know, those were areas that were already planned in and identified. And that is the presentation. Slide 106, sorry, 105.
I only asked the slides because I wanted to go back for reference if I had a question.
Right. So this next presentation, I'm not going to go through, but this was the construction documents phase. This was after the board approved everybody to do construction documents to go out to bid for amphitheater, Village Green, Veterans Memorial, Village Hall, active, a little bit of the active area, the open play area, and the cul-de-sac.
Okay. Do you guys want to open the, I mean, if you could stay, I mean, I know the Parks Committee's here. I really wanted the presentation to be exactly what you did. Let everybody know where we were, where we left off. The concerns I have, in fact, they're not even concerns, is I don't care where anything goes, right? I know that we took a lot of time and effort in public workshops and everyone coming together, throwing their 2 cents in, and we did surveys, we had people come out, and everybody rallied around what the plan was. I get that times change, and we had tennis courts, now we have pickleball because pickleball is more to me. I get that time will change. I know that cost will go up on a lot of things. Disc golf has been an email nonstop thing with me, and I don't know how to respond. I hear 2 things. I hear it was supposed to be permanent, I heard it was supposed to be temporary. I don't know where we're at with that, what the original plan is. I think that's something the Parks Committee and the board need to work on and figure out what we're doing, because we got to put an end to that, right? Or not an end to the disc golf, but an end to the discussion or argument if there is one or isn't going to be one. The soccer fields, the one soccer field that we had out there, I believe that there is soccer fields out there, but not with our, I don't know, with the goals posts.
I don't think there's any goal
ours.
posts, and I don't think anybody graded. I don't know.
So there was no grading out there. So I have a fear with that, right? Because soccer fields, if they're using it, I don't want anyone spraining an ankle or doing that. So that's something else I think we need to look into, and getting our own goal posts. This is just me talking as no public, as a workshop. The reason I asked you what drawings were, or what slides were 77 and 87, was because they were more like a topo. It was more like a topography style photo. It had like the sled hill was one, and then the pavilion and green was another one. So my question to you is, did we do that for the entire park? Did we have those plans as you showed for 77 and 87? Did we do that for every inch of the park, or did we just do those for the items that you showed us, like that one right there?
That one right there.
Well, that one's really not a topography one.
Yep.
Go back to 77 or whatever. Stop. That one.
Yep.
Did we do that for every inch of the park, or just the parts that we already had worked on?
We did the schematic design on all those parts, other than the white, like we didn't do the parking
white
lot.
areas on
the white
on the
areas.
thing.
We didn't touch those.
Okay.
But the board directed us. The conversation went back then and said, great, from the beginning, we have a comprehensive plan. We can't afford everything. We need somebody to help us out and just say, what are our priorities, organize us, have meetings, and say, rank them, estimate them. We did that with the master plan.
Mm-hmm.
And then the board said, we need more detail, because there was a lot of fluff in it. We didn't really go out there and say, hey, I can run pipe or water or anything into these areas or not. So they authorized us, our team, to actually go through and do a schematic design. That's this level of drawings, where we actually walked out there with the village, we walked out there with our civil engineer, we walked out with our landscape architect and said, what can we do in this area? You see these grades, do we have topo of that area, like you see here? Let's throw that on a drawing, let's show the board how we can actually do it. So we developed it further, so we can kind of just say, this is our idea and how we earmarked everything around the entire 103 acres and how everything would work with that long access and that placement, and kind of create a motion where people can kind of explore and go around the 103 acres. Not, you know, the simple term is, you know, active core was such a hot, you know, great aspect. And then everyone said, let's just throw everything around active core, and that was it. The intent was spread everything out so you can actually do this in terms of park planning. So it was a lot of that discussion back then. So each one of these areas was looked at in schematic design that we talked about and really put some thought to it. And that's when the board said, okay, we're going to do these 5, not these 3, move forward on those and do the engineering for. That's the construction documents.
I'm going to stop with my questions for right now and ask any other board members if they have questions or want to open this up to board discussion and park discussions. No? Trustee Reinders? No?
Can I come back?
Yeah, sure. Trustee Cancelino? Trustee Fialko? I always want to say Mr. McNaughton. Trustee McNaughton.
Yeah, I do. Thank you for sharing the information again. It's been very helpful. I have a question for you and maybe a comment as well for the other trustees, but it seems like there's been a lot of work and a lot of public community input into this over the years. I mean, we're 4 months away from 2024. This, with PRI, started in 2016. I went back and had a look through some of the documentation, and it looks like there were public participation meetings, you know, August 2016, September 2016, November 2016, special village board meetings, December of 2016. Outside of that, you know, there's been numerous renditions of boards. I heard you mention the board numerous times, right? And there's been many boards come and go over those years. And I guess my comment, maybe it's, you know, a question as well, is seems like we've spent a lot of time, the community's had a lot of input, a lot of workshops to get to this master plan or the original plan. I guess myself, I kind of sit here in disbelief that we're 8 years into this thing and we're sitting here tonight figuring out why this thing hasn't moved ahead. Maybe that's more of a comment, a question to get to, but my question that I have for you is if you could just walk us through a little bit more of the, I guess, public commentary and what that process looked like to get us to this point.
Yep.
You want them to go back to 2016 to repeat?
No, just in general, just in general.
I can kind of...
Because I saw a slide that you had, and it had a bunch of meeting dates on there. It was right at the beginning, and I just wanted to take another look at that.
This was the presentation from Planning Resources, the actual presentation.
Yeah,
from
PRI.
them,
It looks
right?
like, when I had a look on the village website, it goes back to 2016.
Right.
I can tell you I've been on this board since 2015, and I can tell you that there was a lot of work, a lot of in and out all the time. It was nonstop, and it even included the village hall in the very beginning. You know, so there's been a long relationship again. I mean, yeah, that's the end. I mean, it's just been a lot. It's been an awful lot.
Thanks for clarifying. That was surprising. As someone newer to the board, I didn't realize that this has been going on for essentially 8 years at this point.
So the associations that were talked to were a lot of focus groups that were around here, but we also talked to HAC at the time, talking about athletic fields, what are the different needs that were there. Officials, we had workshops with all the officials, and then residents, 2 different things. My Sidewalk was an online forum where people put their comments, and then open houses where we actually had them here and that people were discussing and we took notes and we kind of gathered all that information. Planning Resources gathered all the information, I should say, and then kind of, here's the input, right? Here's everything that kind of just started right off the top. And that was the board's idea to kind of just say, great, there's a lot of ideas here. How do we narrow that down? How do we just get this? And that's where the master plan kind of came into effect of just saying, here's everything that we can kind of grow from So again, with every community, you do this process, you can get input, you get park community, the actual community, you do surveys and so forth, you get a lot of information. A lot of people have different ideas from different things, but it's the community talking, it's the stakeholders. You can actually take this, and then it's up to the board, right, kind of, right, okay, we're not putting hot tub spas somewhere, right? You kind of throw out the ones that are kind of, you don't think those ideas are great. But you kind of start seeing a common theme for certain areas, right? Community areas, community gathering and so forth. How can you do it? And then the board has the hard decision to sit there and say, what can we afford, right? And that's where PRI laid out this plan and said, hey, let's look at the site. There's a lot of planning. I mean, Mayor, I know you talked about where things go. As design professionals like PRI and us, we're always looking at that because we try not to put slides where the sun's hitting them all the time so kids hurt themselves, right? It's always in the back of our heads of just where everything can get laid out, where everything can move forward. You can see this diagram. And then just starting with bubble diagrams, just saying, how can we split this park up? We had a lot of conversations about one center road going up the park and just have parking on both sides. And they said, let's do a ring road, right? And that was consensus. We did a ring road. Let's get up, and we're going to do the 319 grant, and that's going to have a lot of spoils. What can we do with the spoils? Make that a sled hill. How do we get back to the sled hill? We do the cul-de-sac. Where do we put the active core? Where's the flooding at in the whole site, right? This is
So those are questions I wanted to ask is, you know, when we put this park plan together, we actually studied what was under the ground and above the ground and what works where, right? Like the splash pad can only work here, or it can work in one of two places,
Right.
or the Christmas tree can work in anywhere, right? You gotta pick up a tree and move it, or, you know, whatever, things work because of what's under and above. What I'm worried about, with all due respect to the Parks Committee, is that if we're moving things around from things that have already been planned, how does that affect the next item where it was supposed to go, right? So, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it doesn't affect it, I don't know, because this has been going on for so long, I can't remember what's under, I don't even know what's in my own backyard. I mean, how do you know, how do you keep track of all this?
Right.
And I love Rose's idea, Trustee Reinder's memorial. I know she's working with Mr. McCullough on whatever, or the committees came up with a beautiful idea, and I don't even mind where the location is. My question is, does it work? How do we as a village know where the proposed place to put it will actually work? And how much does it affect the next place? I know Brett Westcott has done some work to know. But again, if that's going to change, my question is, what's going to change next? For me personally, to make a decision on something, I like to see the whole plan. So if we're putting the memorial here, what was in that place where you're putting it, right? That what's going to go in what was supposed to be the memorial, and then if we're moving the tree in the back, what's going to be what's going to be where the tree was, and I just want to know what's being flip-flopped where, when, how, and how that affects the end of all, as I said, the puzzle in the beginning. So those are my concerns.
Yep.
And the cost.
And then there was something that I was under the understanding that the new parking spaces that were, and I didn't know about this until after the meeting, the new parking spaces that we were planning to put in, which I thought was an excellent idea on the road, on the inside of the drive. I heard it may affect the 319, but you can change something with the 319. I'm here. This is what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't do this, right? So I run a farm.
Isn't that what we have these meetings for?
What meetings?
These meetings, these board meetings, isn't that what we do? Isn't this what the committees do? The committees bring to this board the information?
Right, but I don't think any of that was discussed. I don't think what happened was at the last meeting when we talked about the parking, or when we talked about the Veterans Memorial moving, I don't think the discussion was had. And no offense, I know you hate when people say you're new, but not Sue, but you guys were not abreast to all of this. So
Say that in my comments.
when we put in a parking lot somewhere, how does that affect the rest of everything else? It's just like putting my kitchen and moving my kitchen around. How does that affect my living room or my bathroom? I need to know how the whole plan is. This is my personal opinion. Like I said, Trustee Reinders, I love your memorial. I don't care where you put it. Does it work? Does it work with the rest of the plan? But I don't know the rest of the plan, is my question.
Well,
What?
okay, so what we did is, and you know this, we listened
Oh, yeah.
to we listened to Mike McCullough. And to go back to this Veterans Memorial, I mean, I feel like we're beating a dead horse here. We went to the veterans. I originally, the very first time, went to the veterans. It was their ideas that put this memorial together as it stands today. We brought in Mike McCullough and Lou Zemke because they said they wanted to see some other things, which we appreciated. Okay, so give us a chance to go back to our committee, and our committee is now looking at the master plan. We're trying to follow the schematics of the master plan. And we know where the sewer is, we know where the water is, we know where things are going to fit together. But you need to give us a chance to do some work. If I feel like every single week, all we're doing is spinning our wheels here, and we keep talking about the same thing over and over and over again. And like I said earlier, I invited Trustee Mason, I invited Trustee McNaughton to come to our Parks meeting so that we could enlighten them, so that we could discuss with them, and we could explain to them.
I think part of the problem, though, too, Trustee Reinders, and I'm not arguing with you, I just want you to understand, is that one meeting it's parking, the next one it's veterans, the next one it's moving the tree.
Well, isn't that what progress is all about?
Right, but I don't know what the plan is. When you said we're moving the tree to the back, okay, where? Right, so if we move it to the back wherever we're putting it, how does that affect what was supposed to be back there? I'm a strategic person. I like to know what happens from point A to point Z, and I can't wrap my head around how we're moving this here and this here and this here. From what I understand, you want to move the memorial over here and put parking here and put parking there. It all sounds great. I agree with you. I'm with you. If I had a chance to vote on it, I'd be like, let's do it. But in the behind the scenes, I don't know if it works. How do I know?
Well, that's what we have an engineer for.
Madam Mayor?
Excuse me, I am talking.
You interrupted
Point
her.
of order. I'm talking. And she's allowed me to talk.
And we do have Brett.
Yes, and that is what I'm trying to explain to you. We have Brett Westcott. Every step that we take to move forward, Brett Westcott has to be a part of that. That is the whole purpose of having an in-house engineer, so that he actually looks at the topography, at everything that belongs in this park, to say whether or not it will work or not. But it seems like we're never given the chance to move forward with anything, because there's always a question, there's always a stall, there's always a monkey wrench thrown into it. And we're coming here, we're explaining to this board every single thing that we're doing. We've been explaining it for the last year, and it's getting frustrating. It's getting to the point where I feel, and the committee feels, very unproductive.
Sorry.
The committee feels very unproductive because we're not moving forward with anything.
Trustee Reinders, I appreciate that.
And I do. I appreciate that they're new, and they need to understand what we are doing moving forward. But we're trying. We are trying to bring each phase of every single thing that we are doing to this board.
I mean, you've been on this board for 2 years. I've been on it for 9, and have been dealing with this for 9 years.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
It is very
I've watched different committees come in and different committees come out and change things. My only request, which every time you've brought something to me, every time I've always said, I would prefer, me personally, I'm not the end-all be-all say-all, I would just like to see a plan to say memorial here, tree here, this here, and yes, it all works out. For me.
No, I understand that. And that is basically what we are in the process of doing right now. Because with the additions and the changes that Mike McCullough and Lou Zemke would like to see, we want to respect their vision.
Right, but in the same hand, it's not. Because we're getting parking lots, we're getting paths, we're getting tree, not removal, but tree replacement. And then
Are you talking about the Christmas tree?
No, I'm talking about the whole plan itself. Like, what I'm saying is, I'd rather, before we agree to anything else to do in this park, give me a piece of paper that says, this is what the park committee agreed on, and again, they're a recommending body, this is what we're recommending.
Right.
And then Brett Westcott say, it all checks out, it's all good, there's no problems underneath, and okay, then this board can say, let's start with this over here first, and then this second, and this third.
Right.
That's what I would personally like to see. Now, I know Trustee Mason, and Trustee Fialko, I'll get to you next, but I know Trustee Mason had something to say.
I actually do, you're right. This has been going on forever. As Trustee Reiner says, even for last year, she's been beating it up, but I've been there 3.5, 4 months. You made a statement that you've done a lot of work, and and so has the community, as Mr. Petracco said, even indicated that there's been community involvement. With that being said, she's looking back, Trustee Reinders, at the master plan. Well, that's good. So regarding the parking lot expansion, myself and several other trustees have made time to try to digest this project more thoroughly. This is through the help of the village staff and Jim Petracos of TRIA. We actually reached out to him, and he gave us quite the history lesson, and we are now a lot more up to speed on what's transpired. The master plan was paid for, as I mentioned several meetings back, because I picked that up very easily, and designed and ready for the bid process. Then it was unanimously agreed upon to piecemeal it or select projects, which I get. Slow, one piece at a time, I understand that, which makes sense to me because I would imagine reduced spending and ensuring costs didn't get out of control is a good thing. The cul-de-sac with the additional parking to the sled hill was the first project out of the box. It went out to bid. Prep work was done. A base was laid. Materials were ordered and delivered, including lighting, wiring, etc. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars already spent. We then had a new board of trustees come in, and they refused to pay the contractor, Austin Tyler, and TRIA, for that matter, for the work and materials, even though they had secured the process and processed the bids and ordered the supplies and the materials.
That's true.
TRIA later on received a letter from the trustees stating that they wanted to terminate services. This was not voted on or brought in front of the board. I do not believe that Trustee Laha or Rogers even had a voice or an opportunity to express their opinions, which I feel should have been a consensus, or at least brought up for discussion in a unanimous decision type way. We are just the custodians of this master plan. We've already purchased it. We've already paid for it. I've said that before. I mentioned it. I'll mention it again. This was the plan that the residents of the village, of our village, wanted and gave their input on. And this plan, together with undivided results, pushed forward. Boards come and go, and the residents are greater than this board, and no one voted on changing from the master plan or terminating TRIA. But they did vote on stopping the cul-de-sac after it already went out to bid. And this was approved prior. The new incoming trustees disliked the plan from the beginning. I'm not sure why. They have made this a political football. It goes back and forth. It's been going on forever. I've heard that 5 times tonight. Back then they said that this was not something that was needed. And now all of a sudden it's hot. I just want to know what has changed. Is it the topography? Is it the earth? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what did. However, what I do know is that we said that we would be transparent and fiscally responsible, which I plan on being. Paying another design agency is a redundancy in the costing to the residents and the village. It makes no dollars and cents. Why did we, or why would we pay another design agency, H.R. Green, $128,395 on top of what was already spent just to redesign the wheel again? I would like to know who gave Carmen and our village engineer, Mr. Brett Westcott, the permission to spend another $130,000 of our taxpayer money. Was it the Parks Committee? If so, they cannot make these decisions, nor can staff without the board's approval. As Trustee Reinders already stated, they recommend. Our own village code under 50-4A, just for purchasing, refers to $5,000 to a bid limit. Needs the village manager's approval and the mayor's co-approval and require a PO. It also states that at least 3 written price quotes are required. State bid limit and greater, we need board approval, competitive bid process, and an RFP. 50-4B notes that $10,000 and greater needs village board approval as a must for contracts awarded through requests for proposals, qualifications, and/or a bid waiver. I just don't know why did we not just put out the master plan for bid. We have the grants currently. We have paid for the supplies and the material. They're sitting in storage. We have paid for the designs, in fact, twice now. Has anyone from the prior board or Parks and Committee reached out to TRIA? Has Trustee Reinders, you're on both, have you asked for a presentation in order to completely understand the history of the Heritage Park and the master plan? I keep hearing from various trustees, we didn't know. I've been here 3.5 months, I'm digging in. I'm learning. How do you sit here for 2 years, 9 years, or whatever the case may be, and not know? We didn't know. We didn't know it was a master plan. We didn't know there was piping. Please. This goes way back several meetings now. I just keep hearing it over and over. At this time, I would like to make a motion to reconsider approval that because of the issue that we were misled and information was omitted, I initially voted for the affirmative and prevailing side to approve the park expansion, but feel the necessity to move back to the master plan. We need to stop wasting the village's time and the taxpayers' money. We have already spent this once. Thank you.
I know Trustee Fialko wanted to speak next, but I just have a question. Trustee Mason, when you stated 130,000, what was that in reference to?
That is HR Green, excuse me. Sorry, Madam Mayor. HR Green, and I don't know who authorized it, received $128,000, I'll find it here in a second, $128,395 to redesign this again.
Okay, I just kind of lipped to Mr. Westcott if he knew what you were referencing. Can you enlighten us for a minute? I'm sorry, trustees, I just wanted to get this clarified before we move on.
Yeah, that was the design, the contract for the parking expansion within the park. That roughly $30,000. That was approved by the board.
30 or 130?
130,000.
And that came before the board?
Yes.
Which board?
It came before Parks, it came before A&F, and it came before the board.
So prior to this board, okay. And then
So it was voted on.
Yes.
Yes.
So I just have one more question, or not question, but statement. We're in workshop, so no motion can be made at the time. I just wanted to let you know. Okay, sorry, Trustee Fialko.
You know, can I still talk if I let Rose kind of go and answer the questions?
Yeah, I kind of want this to be an open dialogue, but respectful, and let everybody speak. If we can all just stick to those rules.
I don't want to say something other than what's being talked about right now and kind of throw everybody off. So I would rather, if you will, allow Rose to respond to what Trustee Mason.
Trustee Reinders.
Trustee Reinders, I'm sorry. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'll say what.
No, I'm going to reserve. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let me reserve until.
If you want to wait, Trustee Consolino wanted to speak.
Oh, sure.
So we're talking about transparency, right? And we're talking about fiscal responsibility. First, I got to ask several questions of Mr. Petrakis. So last meeting, you said that we paid you $67,000. What was that in reference to? Do you remember?
Let me find that slide. There was a question of how much was paid.
I don't need the slide. I don't need the slide. You referenced $67,000, that's all we had paid you.
All that we paid? No.
Well, do you know
there's
off the
a
top of your head?
question-
Because I do.
Say again?
Do you know how much off the top of your head that you've received from the Village of Homer Glen in the past 10 years?
No.
It's over $1 million.
But that's irrelevant to.
No, wait, no, point of order, point of order. This
It's
is,
irrelevant.
he said, he referred to $67,000 at the last meeting, so I'd like my chance to speak now, and I'm asking direct questions that apply to everything. Because somebody talked about transparency, somebody's talking about making accusations that money was just spent frivolously and didn't go before Parks Committee, before the board, when it did.
I clarified
That's a
that.
very serious accusation, so.
It's clarified.
But I didn't hear an apology from him, so.
Hold on, wait.
Excuse me.
69.
I have.
I'm answering your question. The slide's right there.
Okay. So.
That was a direct question, I think, from Trustee Fialko about how much we've actually paid in the Veterans Memorial design so far. I don't remember who it
So
asked.
far, so this was for the design, okay? So
Of
now,
the Veterans Memorial.
of the Veterans Memorial, we already paid you 70 grand.
Yes.
That's along with the $1 million.
Breaking out all the portions, right? All those projects, 3 different
So
projects.
full transparency, because the taxpayers would like to know this. So who owns the copyright to all the plans?
The architect owns the design copyright.
You do, not us.
Correct.
Okay, but that's not what you said at the last meeting.
Mr. Bujan?
That's not what you said to us, and you said it over and over and over. Excuse me, Mr. Bujan, this is very important. It's not free time, sir. No, it's not. I'm sorry. So you said to us at least a dozen times, and you have trustees that piggybacked on it and said, well, we paid all this money for the plans. What did we look up? How much did the plans cost us when I looked it up? Was it $450,000? And we don't own them? So I don't think that was very truthful.
The Village Green
And
amphitheater
we're
is
talking about
400.
transparency. Excuse me, sir. You've had plenty of
Trustee, I'm trying
time.
to answer you right here because you're kind of talking mistruths. I just want to be honest about it.
It's not a mistruth, sir.
So the copyright you're talking about, you can take that, the village has the right, they have a license to it. I wrote a letter to the attorney, I don't know if that's gone to the board. You have a license, with any architect, you have a license for what we designed to build it for what the project was intended for. You do not have the copyright. I know we talked about that last month. You cannot, as a copyright holder, you cannot go and sell it to Orland Park.
So now let me ask Mr. Westcott a question, because I listened to the meeting past couple days where Mr. Petrakis spoke the last time. I also listened to what our engineer had stated about the $350,000 and what it included. Brett, could you refresh everybody's memory? That was everything, correct? Except for the statues, I believe.
I'm sorry, the 350,000.
I think it was 350,000 included build out, electric, the copyright, the
This is-
designs, everything.
Oh, we're talking about the Veterans Memorial
For the
again?
Veterans Memorial, that
Yeah, it was design build
designed by-
contract. That was all in price. That was
all of it.
all in.
Okay, now, Mr. Petrakis, I'll let you speak again. What was the cost then, and what is the cost now, present day, for just your Veterans Memorial?
The cost then?
But if I may,
Point of order.
no,
I'm not done.
don't point it order me. I'm telling you something right now. The two memorial designs are two totally different things.
Yes, they are, but I have the floor right now.
It includes all of the flowers and everything about, you're talking about apples and oranges. So even if it's $10 million, which I believe it was somewhere in the realm of $800,000, and you went full blown out, it was $800,000 roughly. Trustee Reinder's plan was roughly $800,000 blown out. That did not include the pavilion. That did not include the landscaping around the village hall. So you're comparing apples with oranges here. And I'd just like to remind everybody, this is a workshop about us moving forward on how to get this done. We're not going to sit here and berate him and bash him for whatever it is in the past. I don't care about what happened in the past. I'm sitting at this dais with you guys right now, trying to get in that boat I was talking
Mr.
about,
O'Grady,
rowing together.
She has the floor, correct? Your parliamentary
I'm
advice,
taking the floor back.
sir.
This is just ridiculous.
You can't do that.
Can't do that.
I don't care.
I did have
I
the floor.
get it, but let's stick to the point.
I am sticking to the point,
No, you just
and I'm
wanna beat
addressing
'em up.
each and every item. That's your opinion, ma'am.
It's not my opinion.
It's your
clear as
opinion.
day.
I have the floor.
Have your floor, beat them
Thank
up.
you.
I apologize, Jim.
I don't apologize, sir, because...
Their price is right there. It's on the screen.
So what do you think it is today?
I do not know.
You have absolutely no idea, but you gave us a whole slide. How many slides was that? 181.
168?
168, right? Sure you write that down, because it might change, right?
When?
It might change drastically, sir. This is just based on the Veterans Memorial. It's not the whole big picture that you are all chomping at the bit for to be done. And I'd also like to point out for the record that there were numerous errors made while constructing the park. And as far as I remember, it had to do with electrical, it had to do with grading, it had to do with the bathroom placement. And am I mistaken to believe that those mistakes we had to pay again to repair and to fix?
I don't remember those.
Oh, of course you don't, sir. But you remember everything else.
Every construction project has an issue. I know the contractors had some issues out there.
I'm okay with this.
You asked me a question,
Oh,
I'm
no,
trying to answer
and
for you.
here-
I'm trying to answer for you. So every project will have an issue.
It was a workshop. It turned into, we want TRIA. We want their plans.
said we
want them
wanted
to
TRIA
design.
on their plans.
It sounds really like it, doesn't it?
Did I?
Am I the only person?
Yeah, must be.
I don't think so. But thank you for being so courteous with me
Yeah,
tonight,
well,
because
thank you
it's
for
much
not being-
appreciated, because I did have the floor.
Yeah, that's great. Well,
But
Trustee
thanks again, Jim.
Trustee Fialko, do you have anything? Okay. I'm losing my patience quickly. This is supposed to be about moving forward.
Okay. So is it my turn?
Can we let Brett Westcott say something? Sheriff, can you please assist? Go ahead.
So just really quick, in the interest of moving everything forward with the park and the master plan and everything like that, it was a great presentation, the master plan, very informative. When you are talking about the cul-de-sac roads and the amphitheater and the village green and those things, you guys have the bid set of plans. Does that mean that the engineering and everything is done for those as well, or is it just, so those are ready to rock? Cul-de-sac?
The projects that were put out and had full construction documents, amphitheater, village green, Veterans Memorial, and cul-de-sac. At some point before it went out to bid, the board said, we got a grant for the cul-de-sac. We don't know what's going to happen with the amphitheater. Let's break out the cul-de-sac and do that because we got the grants. So there's a separate project number to break that out from the main area. So that construction documents, that was actually bid. Bids were received. Austin Tyler was awarded the contract. And then a couple months later, after a bunch of delays, the board said, just terminate the contract.
Okay. So then there's the full engineering plans, then we have architectural schematics, it's gone through the whole phase, and there's a set of bid-ready engineering plans for the amphitheater and the village green and the cul-de-sac as well.
Yep.
Okay.
As we talked about last time, they're somewhere here in Village Hall.
Somewhere.
They were delivered. I know we gave PDFs, we transferred them, so those were delivered 2020, 21, I don't know.
Trustee Fialko, did you have something?
Yes,
Microphone
it is. Thank you. We're all talking about this one subject that's been knocked around for a while. That is true. When you say that money wasn't approved, that's not factual. I'll be nice and say it that way.
Thank you.
To move forward, this board has already approved the parking lot as it was presented, as it went through the board, through the committee. And the tree thing that got tabled had to do with moving trees for that parking that needs to get started. We have a grant that we're sitting on that we can't even apply a little bit for till we start doing the work. So my suggestion to this board, in the spirit of moving forward, is I don't even see what would stop from moving forward with the parking as it was approved 2 meetings ago. I don't see there's anything that could stop it. If we get started, it's already been approved. The trees, as far as moving them, it has to do with the parking. So I believe you've got a schematic of some kind where they're being moved to. Yes. That inner parking doesn't encroach on that 319 at all, as you had mentioned, though. That doesn't encroach on any 319 property, and neither did the cul-de-sac road at one time that was looked at. So the parking it was shortened up, and there's still parking over there, but not all the way at $50,000 a spot, and so, or $10,000 a spot. And you had mentioned something that wasn't correct. That is correct. It was $10,000 a spot. You could go to Danley Garage and have a garage built on each spot for that cost. But my point is, let's move forward. You want to move forward. We've already approved the parking. Let's get the wheels spinning. Let's get our grant money started coming in, and let's let Parks or the committee and our village move forward with getting done what we've already approved. We kicked it back once, well, you kicked it back with as far as the trees, and that's on the agenda, but I don't see any reason why we shouldn't move forward with the parking spots that have already been approved. We got rid of that parking lot D out of that drawing at the time, and we all agreed that the park does need additional parking, and most of that is in the original plan. So I don't see why we would delay moving forward. As you guys said, as it was said amongst this board today. So let's move forward. Let's get these items that we have yet to go through, L7 and
Trustee Stylen needs to
I
still speak
believe
on this.
L6 and L7.
Yeah, well-
And get moving forward. I mean, you talk about rolling the boat. We've already gone through the motions, committee's gone through it for parks, it's come to this board, it was voted on, it was approved, and now 2 meetings later, we're talking about, well, you can't move the trees because we want to throw something back. But that was part of the whole thing, this parking, they got to move a few trees, so let them move the trees. I think it's already been talked about, it's not going to get smaller trees. I don't imagine that they're going to be replanted. That's the only thing I haven't heard yet is where they're going to be replanted. Maybe, Brett, could you tell us where they're planning on taking the trees out and where you're planning on putting them? And according to the master plan, will that have any effect on the master plan?
So this was addressed at the Parks meeting on Monday, and I brought it to the park staff. And essentially, there's about 20 trees that need to be relocated along this inner ring road here.
Inner circle, correct?
Correct.
Which are those smaller trees, right?
Yes, I worked with H.R. Green in the
You
design.
said 20 trees?
20,
That's
yes.
it? Okay.
So the priority number 1 is to replace the dead or dying trees within the park with the trees that we're going to spade and remove here. And then it was determined that the remainder of the trees, as Rose was saying earlier, would be planted, split between some additional plantings in this area, which is a forested area as depicted in the master plan, and then there would be some additional trees planted within the active core area as well.
Not impeding on any other part of the master plan, right?
No, sir.
So there would be no reason not to move forward, as we've all agreed to do as a team here in the committee. I sat here and listened to the whole thing. It doesn't make sense why, like it has been said, that we're picking everything apart, especially after we've approved it. I don't think this deviates really from the master plan that much, except for adding a little bit more parking, which I know we do need in this park. I appreciate what Rose has done by removing Lot D.
Trustee Reinders.
And also, she's not putting the other one in next to the shed right away. So I think that's a better way to do it anyway, because now we can see okay, now we add this parking, which we've already approved, and we can see by attendance for certain things we have all year long, how that additional parking has corrected some of the parking issues we have. And then if there's any additional parking, we can move forward with it from there. But I think I agree with you guys with moving forward, and part of moving forward and working together here would be to basically move forward with what we all agreed upon 2 meetings ago and get it done. Start getting our grant money. And you know what, with the rest of it, we can work that out as we progress. But with what we've approved, there's no reason to keep beating the dead horse and not move forward and get those things that we're entitled to, specifically grant money.
You
So
done,
that would be
Trustee
all I've got.
Trustee Stylen.
Thank you. I'm all for moving forward. I think we would have moved forward best if we would have just followed the original plan. We approved the cul-de-sac road and awarded a bid to work on the plan. What we have before us tonight is a proposal to approve a bid on another parking lot. So before we move forward on that bid, I'd like to make sure that that is really what we want to do, and that's why I'm glad that Jim Petrakis is here tonight to clarify some things for us. I thought we were increasing parking in the park with the plan, and I was told that it's very similar to the master plan, and I voted based on that information. But it has come to my attention that that parking lot that we're adding to the north side of the ring road, that near the active core, doesn't get people to the sled hill. And the idea behind the cul-de-sac road was to get people to the sled hill. You might think, oh, they can walk, but you know, in the wintertime and there's snow on the ground when people are sledding, sometimes the snow isn't hard yet. And you could be walking through a lot of snow, and have that parking area near the sled hill, I think, is very important for a lot of, in this community, especially those that might have different abilities. That cul-de-sac road had 158 parking spots assigned to it. When I look at this new parking plan, we gained 22 spots to do all of that extra work. We gained 22 spots because on here, on this drawing, it says that there's 80 total in that little rectangle that's over by the active core. And then you're adding some on the inner ring road, which it gives you like 22 more, because I think you said it was 180 spots altogether that you're getting between.
A fraction of the cost.
No, that's debatable right now because we're spending so much extra money on extra engineering and things that we already have. So that is my concern. What I would like to ask Mr. Petrakis is, do you have a slide that shows the 319 area?
I have to look for that.
Because I was also told that this rectangle area is staying out of the 319 area, whereas the cul-de-sac road was going to encroach a little bit. And now I'm hearing something conflicting to that.
So let me zoom this out. So if you see this diagram, I think this was the conversation that we had with Trustee Mason and Trustee McNaughton. The HR Green provided, when we did the cul-de-sac project. Oh,
do you have a slide?
Can't even see it. Hold on. You see that one? So when we did the cul-de-sac project, one of the decisions that board actually made at the time, the cul-de-sac was actually, the base was put in with the 319 grant. Let me go to that real quick. So when HR Green actually did the 319 grant area, which you can see on the screen here, so all this area here, it comes back to this area, you can see the outline of the cul-de-sac here. This is the sled hill. So they knew ahead of time that was in part of the base plan, so they put in the clay for that. They left topsoil on it so grass can grow, and eventually, because it was low on the list, that they can actually put that and do less and not affect the 319 grant. But the original design from Planning Resources was actually a single loaded corridor in terms of parking. The board at one point, when they said, we've got better events here, active course taking off, can we make this a double loaded driveway? And then that's what we actually did. So we had parking on both sides of the actual road there. We scooted things over to the east, but because of the new width, we actually encroached into the 319 grant area. And this is a drawing from HR Green showing the amount of area that we've gone into. And if you notice here, because with the 319 grant, back then it used to be taboo. Don't do anything in 319 grant, don't have disc golf in 319 grant, don't touch 319 grant, or you're gonna lose the grant. HR Green advised us and said, it's not that taboo if you actually take up some of the 319 grant area, transplant native planting somewhere else. You can actually do that within the grant and you don't lose that grant area. So what you see as a shaded area is where we were affecting the 319 grant area. We knew about it. And this area here, if you can read this, says proposed native plantings area. So we were adding native plantings there between that area and the active core to make up for that deficit. And the question came up at our meeting on Monday of where does that other park go? Where's that other parking lot go? That goes here. I know there's a question of this does not go into the 319 grant area, but according to HR Green's document that they gave us for our project, this is proposed native planting area. That is in a 319 grant area. Something the board should know. That was a question that came up, and it's one of those things, of the decision.
That was for this parking lot.
The parking lot that you are voting on, correct, the new version.
Encroaches on the 319.
Also.
From your view. Now, I'm hearing it's not. Brett, does it or does it not?
So roughly speaking, the encroachment of this proposed parking lot.
Is that you moving the mouse? Who's moving that mouse?
That was me, I just.
Oh, okay.
He just zoomed in. So what he's roughly drawn on there, is correct. It's roughly the same impact. The east side of the parking lot follows the same curve and the same general vicinity of the cul-de-sac road there. I think, but what we're leaving out too is that as part of the parking expansion program, which you can see on the plans, is everything that they have proposed in this plan, we're doing for this lot as well. And we're adding additional wetland plantings and prairie plantings actually in the medians of this lot. Because of its proximity to the 319 grant, we're adding in prairie plantings in between the lot. And those are recommendations that were made to us from our Parks Department, who's very well versed in the 319 grant area and some of the plantings out there. So yes, it is impacting, but just for clarification, this section of the 319 grant that you have highlighted is a proposed area. It does not exist as part of the 319 grant area as it sits right now, right? That's just grass out there right now.
According to HR Green, that shaded area is where we encroach, that project encroach into the existing 319 grant area.
Got it. Okay.
So you could see it all the way down to that creek there, or that little swale, and then back up on the opposite side towards active core.
Right. So just for additional clarification too, HR Green designed these plans as well. So whatever encroachment we were making in this cul-de-sac road here, I'm sure that they're aware of it and that we're accounting for it in the plantings for this lot in this corner here.
I think the question, because the question came up in terms of looking at it, and it's just saying the differences between the cul-de-sac project and a new parking lot area, and there was statements about the cost, there's statements about 319 grant, statements about lighting, it was a bunch of stuff, so.
So the answer I'm looking for is the plan we have on the agenda tonight, if it was to be approved, does it or does it not affect the 319?
Yes.
But I'm looking at these two guys. You got an architect and I got an engineer, and I've got HR Green drawings.
Yep.
Somebody tell me, does it affect it or not?
Yes,
Okay.
it impacts it. However, overall, there's no loss of 319 grant, right? Whatever we're impacting, we're replacing at a 1-to-1 ratio.
In a parking lot?
Not in the parking lot, outside of the parking lot.
Okay.
Outside of the parking lot where?
North of the parking lot here. That's this whole section that goes up along the path in this area.
Does that affect anything in any plans that we had before? Like what, we're moving this stuff to, the 319, it doesn't affect anything?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it's the same, that'd be the same area in here. It's essentially just pushing that up and out.
See, this is why I would like to see a master plan of everything kind of, and that's why we spent all this money on a master plan, so we had a plan and so we didn't have to go back and forth.
Yeah.
That's why I keep asking for that. It's because you just said, you told them no, that it didn't, and then you just told us yes, but then this part 2 of that was yes, but no, because we're going to move it here.
It's not,
right?
you're not losing, so we can't,
Right.
we can't impact the 319 grant and just take away space.
But do you see where the same question has 2 different answers? Like, they got one answer, and we got another answer, and now we're standing here, and it's yes and no.
Understood.
This is where the internal fighting constantly happens, that quite frankly, I can't do anymore. We need to streamline this. And I know everyone, Trustee Silent?
Yeah, I'm just not done.
Yeah,
so
oh,
you
okay.
finish.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
Well, I'm just saying, because that idea of the negative for the cul-de-sac road was the impact, part of it, the negative was the impact to the 319 area. So that is null and void at this point, because it's happening to both sides. So the other thing is then we're losing the access to the sled hill, and we're disturbing all sorts of trees and moving light poles and everything else, and the net gain is like 22 parking spots. And is that really what we want to go through for just that limited number of parking spots? It's not really getting, and we're changing this plan. So now, and maybe I did the math, but I thought I saw 180 on, yeah, you had 101 over here and you had 80 over here, so it's 181, and we had 158 on the original cul-de-sac road without impacting the inner circle or the green. So, and a base is already laid. So I just don't understand why we've got the plans, we have some of the equipment, why we just don't move forward with that. And this has, and I don't know anything else about the other parking lot, because now I'm wondering what else was changed from the original plan, because it looks to me like the other parking lot that's close to the building, 151st Street, is the same. It's not impacted any differently, but I have to ask that because now I'm not sure. So that is why I wanted to have this discussion before we voted on anything tonight. Thank you.
I do see that we have two park members here. I just have a question for you guys. Is there a reason why you guys, I mean, and I don't know how you voted or what discussion happened, but is there a reason why the master plan, because Russ, you were on the committee back then when this original plan came to fruition. Is there a reason why the plan is being changed? It works.
Is there a reason why the plan is being changed?
The master plan.
Well, I've been on the Parks Committee since 2005. I remember the early stages of this conceptual master park plan for Heritage Park. And it seems that every time there was an election, there was a nudge in a different direction with the park, and we've just kind of gone along for the ride.
The park plan, not this park.
The Heritage Park.
Heritage, because the Heritage Park has only been around since 2015.
Well, I should say in practice, the plan, what was being done in the park. And that's fine, because everyone had good intentions, and, you know, maybe one person wanted something, and another person went in a different direction. So we just kind of have gone along for the ride, and I think that where we are now is not altogether that different from the original parks plan. There's just things that haven't been done yet. And, you know, I think it's a great park. Everyone loves it. But things have also, on the other side of the coin, things have changed since 2016. You know, there's been, you mentioned pickleball. Pickleball wasn't really on our radar so much back then. There's been a push for accessible playgrounds, and we've added stuff in the park that we didn't originally envision. We talked about splash pads, and there's been cost and technical issues that have taken us on a kind of a wild ride of, yeah, let's do a splash pad. Oh, it's not going to work, and we've gone back and forth. There's an emphasis on the Veterans Memorial now. Everyone's on board with that. There seems to be these different competing designs, and I don't know that we're really married to one or the other. We just support it, and we want to see it happen. That's kind of something you guys are having to wrestle with. Another issue that didn't exist back then was the fact that the Homer Soccer Club, which served our community, our village, picked up and moved out of town several years ago, and they are miles away now. They don't exist. It left us with a zero level of service for soccer in the village. That needed to be addressed, and that is why you see soccer fields beyond what was originally envisioned in the park. So there's changes. So I don't know that we can necessarily rubber stamp the original plan and have it work. That's my opinion. I don't think it will work. We have to, it's a changing plan, and we have to kind of go along with those changes. So maybe that gives you some perspective. We didn't actively say, hey, let's change this parking lot or this design. We've kind of been like trying to ride the bear over the years. And the bear is you guys and your predecessors.
Russell, may I ask you a question? I asked the mayor if I could already. So how long have you been on the Parks Committee?
I started in 2005.
Okay, so you've been here a long time. In its infancy for Heritage Park, there was another company that was hired before TRIA. I think it was Williams or something like that. There was Williams Architect. And so the board back then, like you said, you know, you get a new board and they change things. So the new board that came in after Williams was hired, fired Williams and hired TRIA. So I get what you're saying. You're kind of caught as a committee when you see things changing. So I just wanted to put out there, it's not this board that's changing everything, or this board before this board, or the committee. There's things evolve, right? And just like you're saying with pickleball, didn't exist, right? So as things evolve, people do have different ideas, and we're not in the same century, we're not in the same time period, and things do change along the way. So the thing is, it's important to know it's not this board or this previous board that changed everything. It's everybody's got new ideas, and things evolve, and things have been changing from the beginning. And that's how you got involved, Jim, right? Because somebody got fired to make room for you. So that's all I'm saying, is it's not just something that's new.
Building.
The Williams architect was hired to do the building, not the park.
Correct.
Two totally different things,
Correct.
just so you know.
Okay.
So they were never hired for the park, it was strictly the building.
Did you do anything for, that's how it all started. Did you do anything for the building though? You did, right?
Yeah, they worked
Okay.
together
So
on the building.
All I'm saying is things
Nobody
have
was
changed.
fired for the park.
Okay, right, but this is where it started, is with the building, and Williams got let go.
No, they worked together.
No, you're thinking planning resources. Williams was the architect originally for this building.
Right.
They were let go, and
Yep.
they hired Tria.
Exactly, and that's okay.
I thought they hired...
But that was their thought at
Not for
that
the
time.
park.
All I'm saying is change doesn't mean it's bad. Just because we change things doesn't mean it's bad. It's because things are progressing, things are changing. We have pickleball. So that's all I wanted to say, Russ. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
Floor's back to you.
We all bought into the original plan. I mean, that was, the committee liked that idea, and we helped craft that idea. And I think we still believe in it, but, you know, there are changes that happen, and that's just inevitable. With the parking lot, A versus B, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm not going to speak for the committee, but I think there's a consensus that we could use some more parking, and we're presented with ideas, and we look at the good and bad, and we try to tweak it and do our best. But we're only a product of what's put in front of us.
Right.
And that seems to change with every
Because I
person.
believe the original parking that went up to the Sled Hill, the committee had consensus to keep. And Trustee Reinders and Trustee Laha and Trustee Rogers were advocates to keep that all the way up to the Sled Hill. But it was because of the grant issue that we had that we let it go, and this was redesigned. And I'll repeat it again, I'm all for the change. I get it. It happens. I get it. I change my shoes 6 times a day. I just want a master plan to see where it all fits. And again, an election's in 2 years. Is it going to change again? I don't want to keep spending the money over and over and over and wasting money. Dan, Kenny, I know you have some words.
I think Russ,
Mr. Bujan, I will call you later. Nope, Mr. Kenny's speaking. He's part of the committee. Chair. Mr. Kenny.
So I think Russ summarized it very well in terms of what our experience has been. I think what was interesting was the slides you had up there about the dates, starting in 2016 to 2018, and then 2018. I don't know if you can show those slides, but that's, because I joined the committee in 2019, but I was part of the planning process of the park starting as a resident. I was going to all the workshops. I was filling out all the forms, and you know, we spent years on that plan and lots of money and lots of time. And then in 2019, you see those dates start to pile up, and it's like, oh, now we're going to do this, now we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And we had this momentum going. We had a real sense of momentum going. And then at the beginning of 2020, it looked like we were getting ready to put shovels in the ground. We were ready to go and execute on this plan. And we had, you had the option 1, option 2, option 3. We had all different ways. We had the budget broken out. I mean, we were moving. And then, of course, we all know what happened in 2020. I mean, momentum for everyone's lives was stopped, and everything changed. And it was, and I just feel like I share Trustee Reinder's frustration. Like, I just feel like we never got that momentum back, and we don't mind if we deviate from the plan or we change the plan. We just want to keep moving forward. But we need a plan. I mean, we need something that's cohesive, instead of just kind of piecemealing here and there. It doesn't have to be this exact plan, but we'd like to get that momentum back, because there was some excitement going into the 2020 that we were so excited, and then, of course, COVID happened. There was nothing we could do about that. So yeah, that's all I think.
The request I'd like to make, again, is that you guys take the original master plan for Heritage, not the whole park plan, but for Heritage Park. take it back to your committee. Move things around where you think things would fit and suffice and how it would work. And what's the new needs? Do we need to do new, public gathering, workshops? Do we need to have more feedback? Do we have to have another, survey monkey or whatever it was called? I forgot what it was called at the time. Do we need to do something like that, or can we just go, okay, we know that soccer fields are needing, we've got the plan for the soccer fields. It needs to be graded and we need some goals. Can we move forward with that? Can we pick apart what we can move with and move with it, and in the meanwhile, figure out the other pieces that are missing?
I think that's a great idea, honestly, because you know what? Just myself, looking at that spot that the band shell's going to go in for a fest, I don't know if anybody talked to anybody that ran the fest to see if that's functional. I don't see it as functional. I've been involved with the fest 3 years now. I know how it works with bringing bands in and sending bands out and transferring things in the middle of the show. The way that's set up right now, I don't think it's functional where it's at. I'm not saying the design isn't nice, but I don't think it's functional where it's at. So that would be one example from me.
And you've stated that before.
And I have stated that before. So that's where I'm at with it. I think Dan is right.
I don't want to throw the whole plan.
I think we also have to remember too, during that time, we took on all the township parks. And so that was a huge kind of derailment for the Parks Committee and for the village, because we're doing a lot of stuff trying to get those parks up to speed and take care of our existing parks, and then also get the momentum going behind this big park. So we had a lot on our plate, and as Trustee Reinders pointed out, it feels like we're trying to juggle a lot of stuff, but nothing's getting done, unfortunately. So.
I think what the best plan is, and I don't know if everyone agrees, but if we can get some sort of consensus. I don't want to throw out the original master plan, but I would like to look at it and have the Parks Committee present to the board, we'd like to keep this, that, move this, and then have Brett Westcott look at it and say, is it possible? Look at I remember the plan from TRIO was like this thick. There were so many things involved. I just feel like you're right. We're not, I remember the momentum. We were, at one point I couldn't keep up anymore. I think we had a subcommittee, a constructural subcommittee at the time to figure out other things. I mean, we had committees with committees helping each part of the plan. I don't even think our Parks Committee jumped into the plan until later on because we had other parks to deal with.
The residents were so excited.
Excited. Now I think it just kind of went.
See what was going to happen with the park, and then it just kind of, and again, we can't control a worldwide pandemic. I mean, everybody's lives were disrupted, and yet we've never gotten that back. And so for the residents' sake, I would love to get us back on track with this somehow.
Is there something in the plan, like I know we mentioned soccer fields, I know that's a big demand. Is there something in that plan the Parks Committee can say, you know what, we can move forward on that and figure out other things while we're trying to figure out a master plan?
Well, we actually pretty much, I mean, I know Russ wasn't at the meeting the other day, but I know we pretty much now can move forward with the Veterans Memorial, actually tweaking it, bringing in what Mike McCullough and Lou Zemke and the area, because the area that it's not far off base of where it was supposed to be originally. So, and one of the most important thing is the sewer and the water. And we know where the sewer and the water is. We looked at the topography with Brett Westcott a little bit. He said he didn't think it would make that much of a difference. So basically we wanted to concentrate basically in that same area where it was before. But we're putting that together to bring to the board. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to vary that much from the original plan.
Yes, Brett.
And one more thing I would like to add to, let's go back to Austin Tyler and all the money that we spent. Austin Tyler came before the board prior to us coming on board. They were approved 2 months, a month, 2 weeks, a month before we even took office. So when we came on board.
Oh, that's the ring road, right?
Pardon?
That was the road.
Right, that was right after the election. It was the cul-de-sac road, and it was right after the election. They got pushed through right before we came on board. Okay, when we came on board, We gave them ample time to meet the requirements of the bid. They could not meet them. We gave them extension after extension after extension. They could not meet the employment requirements. The bid required minority status. They could not meet it. And we gave them 3 chances. They could not meet it. So therefore, that is why we canceled the contract with Austin Tyler.
That is true.
And we took all of the equipment. We have the lights, we have the electric, we have everything. And the other thing I wanted to say too was, you know, like Dan had said, and like Dan Kenny said, and Russ said, you know, there's been so many changes throughout the years for this plan. And they're not major changes to the plan, but they're changes, and they did happen. And changes are gonna happen. And you know, you talk about the residents in 2016. Well, you know what? I ran for an election in 2021, and I just ran for another election. And those residents from 2016 have way different ideas, or the ones from today have way different ideas than the people of 2016. They're demanding that we get a splash pad. They're demanding that they have more play area. They're demanding a sandbox. They are demanding so many different things for our park. And like Dan Kenny and Russ said, you know, we're trying to keep up. We're trying to provide what the residents are asking for. So when you say the residents of 2016 are not the same residents of today, and they don't have the same ideas. Times have changed, and people have changed, and needs have changed. So that is all I'm saying moving forward.
Brett, did you have something? I'm sorry, Trustee Glen. He had his hand up, but somebody. Brett.
I just had one kind of real quick thing, closing statement on the parking lots and everything that's proposed in the master plan and everything like that. I think it's been a great discussion so far. I think that there's nothing in this plan that would stop us from potentially extending this parking lot up to the sled hill at a later date, while also gaining additional parking in this area here. I think that the parking along the inner side of the ring road there is a logical spot for it. We've shown that it does not impact the soccer fields. It does not impact the future plan for the soccer fields. We discussed that this southern lot was part of the master plan as it sits.
I did have a question, Brett. You mentioned that. Wasn't there a reason we didn't put parking on the inside of the road? Or was there not a reason?
Just the interference with utilities, the existing lights that you guys put in a couple years earlier.
Existing, like current in the, so
right, if you see in the current plan, they're removing the lights that were put in when the ring road was built. They're removing the trees when the ring road was built.
Is that all in that quote?
The utilities you're talking about are from the 10 o'clock area to the 12 o'clock area, not where that inner circle parking is going now. That was looked at already.
Street lights.
Yes, the street lights and things that are there. It's not affecting utilities other than the street lights, and we've got this stuff for it. The thing I wanted to say is HR Green was given all that time, like Rose was saying, and they couldn't meet the requirement of the minority count for the project.
Not HR, Austin Taylor.
Or Austin Tyler, I'm sorry. But the other thing that paralleled with that is this whole project for that ring road, which seems to be, it was contingent upon getting the grant money. It took, I don't know, a year and a half before we found out we didn't have the grant money. So that whole project was approved based on getting that money at that time for that ring road. And so you had two things against you, the contractor and the grant money were not coming in. And you can go back to that meeting, April 21st, I think it was April 2021. You can go to that meeting and look at it yourself to see that I'm telling you the facts. The thing is, it was contingent upon the grant money. The grant money was never received. It went over a year and a half. We had the problem with the contractor. So therefore, we just, let's move on, right? Like you guys are saying, we had to move on. So that is where we ended up. It wasn't because of any other reason.
Mayor?
Yes.
Respectfully, in defense of Austin Tyler, that wasn't actually the case. So as administering the project, right, and Rose, I know you, Trustee Reinders, I know you said that also. We put out the bid, the village put out the bid a project that had certain MBE requirements for contractors to bid on. Austin Tyler was granted because he was the winner. When Austin Tyler got into it and the village called the state and said, we're ready to go, and they said, well, you need these MBE requirements. They changed them. And at that point, we went back to Austin Tyler because we were the architect of record. We asked him, can you do anything with this? But he's like, I can't, I already have a bid. I'm already a low bidding contractor. I can't change it that much. I can shuffle some money around, but I can't meet those stringent requirements from the state. And at that point, it wasn't Austin Tyler failed. He did what he was exactly meant to do, and he followed the bids. Matt Walsh at the time, who was interim village manager, was working with the state to correct the paperwork, similar to what you're doing now, or you did now, you corrected the paperwork. So they never received the grant.
Paperwork for what?
The grant.
For the grant.
No, the grant's already gotten. It's not being corrected, it's done.
No.
Correct.
No.
But at the time, prior, Matt Walsh was working to correct the paperwork with the state to say, what are we actually doing? So the village was awarded the grant. And so we're not mixing terms. The village was awarded a grant. You did not get grant money because you have to get it reimbursed. And that you have to go through the grant process. So at that point, the village was trying to work with the state to get their paperwork in order so that they can hire and continue with Austin Tyler. In the meantime, they told Austin Tyler to get performance bonds, payments bonds, and order things, but do not break ground. They were told not to break ground just in case they couldn't get reimbursed for these items.
That is not true.
So that is the point. That is exactly it we had at the meeting. So they actually came back and said, when the board said that we don't want to do this project anymore, we don't want to work with the state, we don't want to stop that, whatever it is, cancel that project. Austin Tyler said, I still need to get paid for my performance bonds. They had 2 payments, and the second one was all the material. And that material was around $130,000, $150,000, $155,000 was paid, and I know it went to A&F and back to A&F, I think to the Parks Committee and then back to A&F or something. It kept going back and forth, and Austin Tyler had to come here with me to kind of explain that, and he finally got paid for that material, and he had to make sure that the material was delivered here.
Right.
So you canceled that project with them because of that, but there's nothing for them. They met the requirements that the village asked them to.
I'm sorry, but I have to correct you. They did not meet the requirements. They did not meet the minority status, and I'm sure everybody in this room can tell you that.
Right.
They could not meet the minority status, and that was the reason why we canceled. We gave them...
It's a mix of words. I think they didn't meet the requirements that the state was imposing.
Right, well, the state was the one who was giving them the bid. It's the same thing.
No, Village gave them the bid. Village did the project. Village set the minority requirements. Austin Tyler met those requirements.
Okay, I think at this point...
I just want to clarify, right?
Right, thank you. I know that we can talk about this all night.
Yep.
I think we're at the workshop stage of, if I think we all agree, the Parks Committee is going to look at the plan, come back to us with tweakage of the plan, maybe, I don't know.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
I'd like to ask Trustee Mason, when did you meet with Tria Architecture? Did you meet with them as a capacity as a trustee or as a part of the Parks Committee?
Monday.
You met with them this Monday?
That's correct, on a Zoom call.
Okay.
You can FOIA that.
Okay.
So I do have something I'd like to end in closing. I'd like to apologize to Mr. Westcott, because I do stand corrected. H.R. Green's design was rushed through in March, just before we took office. I just didn't understand why we're paying another $130,000 to do something we already did. Also like to thank Russ and Dan for your due diligence and your service. I know you guys stated you liked the original plan. So did we. I'm just tired of the taxpayers paying for stuff and then paying for it again and paying for it again. Also apologize for the little chess code leg I got going on. Mr. Petrakos, thank you for cleaning up the minority, because I knew that because we had discussed that the paperwork was filled out wrong, and so I appreciate that. I think the mayor had a great statement, and it's the overall. We have to have an overall plan. We cannot keep picking it up, moving it, paying for infrastructure or piping or sewage or wiring or $150,000 or $155,000, as Mr. Westcott just pointed out, of equipment that sits there. We got to put it to use. It has to be put to use in our plan. I don't want to tax the people any more than they've already been taxed. I don't want to redesign something that's already been designed. All of this is beautiful, and it can all be incorporated. And yes, I understand change orders, but we have a master plan, and it should go out for bid. The grant money, regardless if we start it this year, and I don't like the idea of stuff starting and then sitting over the winter and then regrading come spring because it's all mush, and you kind of alluded to it, Mr. Westcott, and told us, hey, there might be some additional work that needs to be done come spring, because I understand that. Here's going to be additional work, additional cost to regrade it yet again because it became a muck pit. But that money's still there. I have a question for you, Mr. Petrakis. If we started this project in April, could it be done by September of the 24?
Which project?
This parking lot project.
It's not my project. I don't want to speak to that.
Well, if we started the original project, your project, that both sit on the 319 grant. Again, when I had mentioned that there were things omitted, this is the kind of stuff I was talking about. The original plan that brings us to the sled hill, if you started that in the spring without running into the winter chaos, could that be finished by September, which is when the grant money runs expired?
Yes. It was on a tight schedule the first time we did it.
Okay. I'm done, and thank you, and I apologize again, Mr. Westcott. Thank you.
Okay. I think I'm going to close up this workshop. Trustee Consolino, my apologies for getting frustrated. I'd just like to keep things on track and stick to the point of what we're talking about. Mr. Petrakos, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, board, for everything. And you guys, at least hearing it out and understanding the history.
There's no charge for it.
These meetings have been no charge at all. Have been no charge at all. I think I'm done. I think I'm done.
All right. So I think the next item on the agenda is L6. Is there a motion to approve one of the 4 construction bids that the village received at bid closing on August 15th, 2023 for the Village of Homer Glen Heritage Park parking expansion project?
So moved.
So Trustee Consolino?
I will second it.
Fialco? Trustee Consolino?
Nothing.
Trustee Fialco?
Nope, I think we've hashed this out.
Trustee Mason? Mason?
No, ma'am.
McNaughton?
Yes. I apologize. No. So I had a couple of things. I went back and rewatched the video. You know, there was a few things that we had debated over and talked about, and some numbers that were thrown out. I believe there was some comparisons that Trustee Fialco made from the original plan. The cul-de-sac is around $1.5 million, or I think $10,000 a parking lot. Seems it's a lot of money. Parking space. Now within that, just like with the HR Green Plan, you have to subtract the 319 grant. Right, so it's not.
I'm not following that one.
Trading space.
You can't encroach on the 319.
And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the quote that you spoke about, the $10,000 per parking space, the $1.5 million, you have to subtract the grant, $750,000 off that.
Right, you're doing it with this.
Correct. But you omitted to mention that when you presented that to us last time.
It's still money spent though, right?
It's on the video. You spoke about $10,000 per parking space, right?
That's correct. That is.
But you
doesn't matter what
omitted. But you omitted the $750,000, which would then reduce that to about $5,000.
How is that omitting it?
Because you only mentioned it for the HR Green quote.
We've talked about the grant money since we got started, and the thing is,
My question is, why didn't you not mention that when you spoke about $10,000 per parking space?
On July 26th.
All right, so you're asking me a question, right?
Nope, just commenting on it, that I feel like I was given information that was incomplete at the time.
You want an answer?
Not right now.
Okay.
So that was the first thing that I found surprising. The second thing that I found surprising, I went back through the original quote. You also have to deduct another $155,000 off that 1.5, because that includes lighting, which we already own, which we talked about we already have. So that brings us to about $600,000 after the grant for the original cul-de-sac road. Now, what we're looking at today is $1.872 million. If you again deduct the $750,000 for the grant, that's $1.122 million, or about $520,000 more than the original cul-de-sac plan. But on top of that, you have to really add the HR Green, $130,000, let's call it $128,000, to the difference. So we're now $700,000 in excess of what we had originally, right? So if we're talking about comparing apples to apples, when I originally voted on this parking, when I originally voted yes to move forwards with this, the way it was presented to me was it's going to be $10,000 here, we can get it done for $3,000. But it wasn't comparing apples to apples. If $3,000, go back and listen to the video or look at the minutes, you included the grant of $750,000 on the HR Green price, but you didn't include it in the original pricing. So I was voting on information that wasn't correct. So that was my concern. Go back, read the minutes, have a look at the video that's in there. So overall, it's about a $700,000 increase in cost to the village to move ahead with this parking plan over what was originally put out there and quoted at $1.45 million. Thank you.
Trustee Sue Stylen?
Yeah, my comment is just that the bid, it doesn't separate out the different parking lots. I haven't heard anything different to approve the one parking lot by the building, but knowing now that there's a base that's already been put down for the cul-de-sac road, and that it gets closer to the sled hill, and they both impeded on the 319 grant, I just can't support the other parking lot at the moment. The one that goes back by the sled hill active core area.
Trustee Reinders, did you speak yet? I don't. Well, I've got something to say. I can see where this is going, and this is, is there any way we can make, anybody would like to entertain a motion to table this? I would hate to see it get voted down or passed without an agreement and without a master plan. The new information that Craig just brought, or Trustee McNaughton just brought up tonight, again, kind of makes me go, I just feel like I'm never getting solid facts, and I just feel like there's gotta be a way. And that's when we had Tria always explaining the path, the routes. And not that I'm going back to Tria or saying anything about that, I just feel like if we had a whole master plan and a whole study done, start to finish, with costs just like what we had, if that's so true is what the park committee would suggest. I just think it's the right thing. I don't want to keep having a divided board on every single vote.
Madam Mayor, I would agree. I would move the table, provided we can get back to working off the master plan, have Mr. Westcott look at it, stop moving the kitchen to the dining room to the kitchen, and so forth. If we could do that, I'd be fine with that idea.
It's my motion right now.
Yes, well, that's a motion to approve, with a second by, he's making a superseding motion to table.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, superseding. They write that down?
Okay.
He's got a first, you have a second.
Is there a second to table?
I'll second that.
Any more discussion on the table? I do. Brett Westcott, does this make sense to you? Is this what you're shaking your head as I was speaking? Is this something you would be okay with? I mean,
I just want to build something. I really want a project.
do.
I just want to build
Like I
something
said,
out there. I
we all
understand.
have a different path of getting
We all
there.
do. I completely understand. I think that there's an open door here. HR Green, again, has designed they've done all the engineering for the stuff in the park. So it's not to say that we couldn't potentially have an addition to bring us out to the sled hill. I think when we're talking about prices and stuff like that, it gets kind of hazy because this project has two different lots, right? It's not just a tit for tat of the cul-de-sac and the other lot up there, right? I think that, you know, it's a good start, right? Look at the schedule, the Gantt chart that I put together in there. I think that it's not unreasonable to say that we can't get into this and potentially, if we really, you know, kick it in the butt, get the binder down, and that would address the concerns of it sitting over the winter time, right? If we can get that binder down, we're good. Right? No, there's no impact, and then we'll surface it the next year, and we can go from there. But yeah, I'm happy with it, I guess, right? As long as it's not no, so.
I wish there was something we could all agree on right now so the parks can move forward on, like soccer. Can we move forward on soccer? I mean, I know that's not the motion right now, but I think we need to move forward on something. So, Madam Clerk,
All right.
Usually I can't help myself, so I apologize. So Brett's an amazing engineer. I'd be the first person to say that all the time. But I want to say that, not Jim necessarily, but there's always, I feel like being a trained landscape architect, that there's always this piece of the puzzle with the planning realm and the landscape architecture realm that fits within design, with architecture and with engineering together collaboratively, that they come to the table together and they bring all of their expertise. And I think whether it's TRIA or not, there's a benefit to having those disciplines working together to figure out the puzzle. And I think that Jim brought up something that resonates with me when he was speaking about the swings and how you place them, because it seems like it's something so trivial, but it's not, because it can make or break how a child uses a playground, if it's effective, if the residents continue to come back, because the moms might not bring them because they won't use the swings because the sun's in their eyes. And I think it seems silly, but there's probably 1,000 things that the architect is looking at, and the landscape architect is looking at, and the planning staff is looking at, and I think that it's always worth our effort to have a group of people that can look at this stuff, at why it's important for parks and the board and our staff and consultants if we need them to all weigh in on these big topics. And engineering is also very critical, but they all play a role. And I think it's really important for us to not forget that. So just
and Melissa, the sentiments of that is that's what we did with the original plan. That's how we got where we were.
I think in some instances you can do and pick up and do design build and look at little pieces of stuff, but I think it's always important for us to be looking at all the variables at play all the time. That's just my...
All right, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Trustee Mason? We're voting?
For moving to table?
Yeah.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Yes.
So I have to come back to you?
Okay. Trustee Reinders?
Abstain.
Trustee Consolino?
Abstain.
Trustee Fialko? Thank you, Trustee Fialko.
I just want to make sure, Brett, you're clear on the direction been given tonight and what this is being tabled for and what you expect to come back.
I need a day to think about how to talk to each person at this dais and figure this out.
May I just have a moment to address something that was said, though?
Is it bad?
No, just 2 seconds. Two seconds.
Ready, go.
You kind of made an accusation that you were duped or misled with grant money, but I just want to, it's not fair for you. I watched the video myself too. Grant money's always been talked about in the process. It was never removed from anything that was going to be done before. It was never removed from what you're talking about, and it was never removed from what we're talking about today. It's money that this government, that this village board gets to spend. So it doesn't matter where it comes from, it's still being spent. And so my numbers were factual. My numbers were not twisted. The other thing is with the stuff that we've got in storage, that, as far as I know, Brent, we would be using that stuff, the lights and the things for that. So that's all I wanted to say. You weren't duped. It's never been talked about that way. You kind of dissected it the way you did for what the reason that you did. But never being trying to fool you any which way that you kind of made it sound like. So anyway, that's all I got to say.
I have just a suggestion. I think one person on this side should call somebody on this side. You guys start opening the door to communication. That would be awesome. Okay. Moving on to number 7. Are we even going to entertain this? Consider for approval a quote of $5,900 from Instant Shade and Company to relocate trees within Heritage Park for the Heritage Park parking expansion project.
So moved.
Trustee Conciello. Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion fails. So we're going to move on to executive session. Here's my recommendation for executive session. I say we do not go into it tonight. It's been a long meeting. I do have an attorney question. I know there's a presentation that we need to address. Is there any possible way that Mr. Baber can hand out what we need for executive session, allow the trustees to review it, and give feedback to Mr. Baber by the end of the week?
Sure. We don't have to do
You
that
guys
tonight. You can give it to them tomorrow.
Or have a one-on-one meeting or something? I mean,
We don't have to do it tonight, just email it to them tomorrow.
are you guys, Trustee Reinders?
Can I understand what you're saying for what to take place now? Because you're talking about SOP 18? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm talking about executive session.
Executive session, but what in executive session?
It did include, yeah.
Because we had a couple things.
Right, so what I was suggesting is that we don't go in, and if you have questions or suggestions, which I know are your suggestions, you just get them to Joe. Or can we talk individual? This is just,
It is in regards to SOP 18.
I didn't know if I could say that, so I kept it basic.
Yeah, there's a stat, Joe, why is the stat, I didn't look that statute up. What statute is that in executive session?
Personnel.
Just had to do
We're
with,
talking about what we've been talking about, right? Yeah, so we can send the spreadsheet around to everybody, they can get their comments back to you on it.
That's
We can
not,
take it up.
but are we talking about SOP 18 with personnel or not?
Could have been in and out of
there
executive.
was 2 separate items.
That's what I said, but Paul said he only had one thing.
There was 2 personnel-related items that were going to be discussed in executive session. One was the one you had mentioned to me you wanted, and then SOP 18.
Yeah, I suggest that we just move this to the next executive session, because I think it's too complicated to get, we need to hear each other.
But you can pass that out.
I
'cause
can
there's other things.
distribute some of the information on SOP 18.
Yeah, all right, is there a motion to adjourn? Oh. Yes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good night.